We'll call the meeting of the January 20th, 2021 meeting to order. Shall we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, if I may, Mr. Gorski, yes, please have roll call, and then I'll just make a quick announcement.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Arminio,
Yes.
Ms. Belko,
Yes.
thank you. Ms. Bierman,
Here.
Mr. Chiarella,
Here.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Here.
Mr. Pelori,
I'm here.
Mr. Rutsky, Mr. Rutsky, Ms. Siegel,
Here.
Ms. Skirby,
Here.
Mr. Stefano, Mr. Stefano, Madam Board President, we still have a quorum, even though Mr. Rutsky and Mr. Stefano have not signed off as present.
Okay.
Maybe they'll join us. If they do, and you see their name come up, please ask them to announce themselves for the attendance record.
Yes, sir.
And in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published, an electronic notice provided by having the date, time, and place thereof posted January 15th, 2021 at all schools on the district website at https://www.monroe.k12.nj.us/ the Home News Tribune, the Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality. Instructions for making a public comment are as follows. To make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. When you are called to speak during public forum, your microphone status will be set to unmute. Please do not attempt to unmute yourself, as this may cause your microphone to stay muted. When called upon, you will be given the option to share your device's camera with the rest of the panelists and attendees during your speaking time. If you choose to do this, simply click the video camera icon. After you are unmuted, please state your name and address. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 4 minutes duration or less, in accordance with Board Bylaw 0167. After you are finished speaking, you will be muted and your permission to share your camera will be disabled. Please, it's very important at that time to turn off the raise your hand feature. Madam President?
Okay, thank you. And I don't know, Mr. Feldman, if you will be able to periodically put up the phone number in case someone is having difficulty reaching us during the public forum.
Absolutely, Madam Board President. I have a PowerPoint, and I'll just show the text for the phone call every couple minutes, and definitely at the beginning of the session.
Okay. Last meeting, we said that if any, and according to the emergency regulations and the local finance notice with the state, we mentioned that if there was a public participant virtually or someone who could not attend, they could send a letter to the board, a secretary, and copy the superintendent and myself. And we have this evening one letter that I am aware of. And Mr. Gorski tells me that is the sole one for this evening. Okay.
Ms. Arminio, I believe you have one, correct?
Yes, it's the same one I sent you. Was
Okay.
it another one?
I also have one. I have a different one.
Okay.
So we have a total of 2.
Okay, so I will, when the time comes, the one that I received that was sent to, that I forwarded to Dr. Alvik and Mr. Gorski, I will read during the second public portion, since it does not entirely it talks about the agenda. Mr. Gorski, is the letter that you have, is that for the first reading when it comes?
I believe it's also eligible for the second public forum.
Okay,
And I
okay.
emailed you that, email as well. So you should have both if you wish to read them during the second public
No,
forum.
we'll share that obligation. Thanks, since I don't have it. Okay. So, the approval of minutes, I believe, is our next agenda item. We have the Public Board of Education meeting December 9th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella, seconded by anyone? You can raise your hand.
I'll second it.
Mr. Gorski, Mr. Tofano is here. Just, Mr. Tofano, for the sake of the record, could you just say that you are in attendance?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. So he seconded that, Mr. Gorski. All in favor? Do you want a roll call or is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any recusals or abstentions?
Yes.
Okay, I think our new folks, how about Chrissy Skirby? Mr. Gorski has abstained. Kathy?
Yes, I'm abstaining as I was not a board member during that time period.
Ms. Belko?
Abstain.
Okay, and Ms. Bierman?
Abstain.
Anyone else? I'm sorry, Mr. Gorski, I'm usurping your position. Go ahead.
Okay, so noted. I got it all.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I believe the motion is passed anyway. We have enough? Okay.
Yes.
How about the public minutes?
Closed session.
I'm sorry, the closed session minutes of December 9th, 2020.
So moved, Michelle. It's Andy Pelori.
Thank you, sir. Seconded? Anyone?
Second.
Second by Mr. Chiarella. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any recusals or abstentions?
Abstain.
Yes. Abstain.
Okay, you got that, Mr. Gorski?
Ms. Skirby, Ms. Bierman, Ms. Belko.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
okay. I believe, well, you can announce it, sir.
Approval of the minutes is passed. Ms. Arminio, I've been informed that Mr. Rutsky has joined the meeting. Mr. Rutsky, are you with us?
I don't see him on here, but welcome, Mr. Rutsky.
Yeah, I'm here.
Let us-
I'm in the
let
top
us-
left corner. I unmuted to say hello to everybody.
Oh, are you not going to be, okay, not video?
I am video.
I don't, oh, there you are. Okay, you're on.
Hiding in the corner.
Okay. All right. Shall we have, did you want to vote on the minutes, Mr. Rutsky? Had you been able to do that?
So I thought I raised my hand both times, but so yes, I'm a yes on both.
Okay, thank you. And then the committee reports would be next.
Correct.
Okay, shall we have Mr. Tofano just announce what committee you're with and you can begin.
I'm the chair of the BG&T committee. At our last meeting, we had Pride Restoration of North Carolina. I'm combining this month's BG&T with last month's. We had Mr. Jim Shields of Pride Restoration. He gave an overview of his firm and their production, sale, and use of hypochlorous acid as a disinfectant agent on fire, water damage, and mold restoration projects, as well as to combat COVID-19. Committee members and Dr. Richard Lynch of Environmental Safety Management asked many probing questions pertaining to the production, efficiency, and use of the product, which was confirmed by Dr. Lynch as EPA approved for the use to combat COVID-19 and is documented on the EPA N list. Mr. Shields was requested to follow up with references from other public school districts which use this product and equipment, as well as cost data for some, so the administration and their committee may continue to explore the matter further at another committee meeting. I've been inundated with emails and messages in my inbox about the cost of this equipment, and what I'll do is I'll have Mr. Gorski explain to you why we cannot explore cost at this time, And then I'll move on to issue number, the second thing on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Tufano. Having just received some price information from the new vendor, in addition to what was provided previously, I think it would serve the committee very well to readdress this at another BGT committee, especially going over the price estimate for the machines, because it appears that they may exceed the bid threshold of $40,000 in aggregate, which would require the district to put together bid specs, which I'm happy to do, but I would just need some more information. Unless, of course, if these machines are exempt from bidding and I don't have that information. So it appears that we need a little bit more deliberation at the committee level, sir.
Thank you, Mike. The second thing we discussed was the Claremont Elementary School in Franklin Park, New Jersey. The committee chair identified the school as a recent successful referendum project and recommended that the committee tour the facility. Dr. Alvich provided a general overview of the project with information provided by the current Franklin Park Superintendent of Schools. A tour of this school has been scheduled for Monday. We have arranged for many committee members to attend. We also decided that we're going to request that we have a special meeting to develop a long-term plan to address the student growth and facilities infrastructure needs of the BG&T. So we're going to have an extended meeting dedicated to solving our enrollment issues and the needs of the district that are actually very important to solve. And that's all I have for that. Thank you.
Madam President,
Thank you. Mr. Hallory.
thank you very much. This is actually a question for our superintendent, Dr. Alvik. Dr. Alvik, do we have a problem currently with sanitizing the facilities in the protocol that you've been maintaining since March of last year? That we need to look at new equipment now?
Dr. Alvik, if you wish to address that, please.
Yeah, no, we've been using the BrewTab solution, but that's been the topic of some of the discussions at BG&T.
So as I recall, during the December BG&T meeting, we discussed this and dismissed it, where all the committee members, including Mr. Tufano, who was the chair at the time, acknowledged that there's no further need for investigating. So why are we spending more time and effort reviewing this? While the solution was approved by the DEP, it has not been approved by OSHA. And we were also told by our Robert Lynch, his title, please, somebody help me. Dr.
Lynch is our environmental engineer, correct?
Environmental engineer. And he mentioned that Mount Vernon, if I recall correctly, in New York, used this solution and had some bodily injuries that led to some litigation. And he also mentioned that there are some other implications that could result in something going wrong, and the cost is not recoverable, and it's not in our budget. I recall very distinctly that we looked at 5 or 6 different items, and we said it doesn't make sense to pursue this. Obviously, I'm not a member of BG&T anymore, so I cannot speak to what exactly took place in the BG&T meeting, but from my recollection is that this particular item was discussed and dismissed. So can somebody shed some light on why we're reinvestigating this? What is the interest here? And I'm hearing from the school administration that this is really not needed. And where would the money come from?
Mr. Tufano, can you answer at least some or part? And
Absolutely. So when we first discussed this, Andy, Jerry Tague was gracious enough to find out a certain price from a certain vendor, one price. That price was completely out of control. The price that he found for those items would take years for us to recover the cost of that equipment. Recently, I've investigated other vendors who gave us a very, very, very reasonable price. Again, I can't mention price for the obvious, for the reasons that Mr. Gorski said, but the price that we got from the second vendor would save the district money long term. It would take, if this price was correct, it would take a year and a half to recover the amount of money we've spent on brew tabs. What happened with the other district that Dr. Lynch mentioned was that the staff there mixed the product with a foreign body, which they were not supposed to do. With proper training, we literally are going to be mixing kosher salt and water. It cannot be mixed with other products. It should not be mixed with other products. Dr. Lynch agreed and also said that it was a good idea as long as we checked with a stick the purity of the product we're making. Again, my idea in bringing this to the committee was to remove chemicals, harmful chemicals that are irritants to students, that can have trouble with kids with respiratory problems. This is a natural solution made out of salt water. It's electrified salt water. The name sounds like it's to take your skin off your face, but it's literally kosher salt and water. We don't use chemicals as pesticides in our schools. We don't use any pesticides outside on the lawn, except for at the high school. And I don't see the reason why we should not shy away from chemicals in our school system and save the district a lot of money. I can tell you that we spend $20,000 a year on this brew tab product. So if we can invest in machines that are going to take chemicals out of the school system and save us money long term, it should be explored. I did not nix this project because of its effectiveness. I nixed it at the first meeting because of the cost we were given. But we've researched that, and the cost is definitely well worth it. And as a parent of 3 in the district right now, I would like to see chemicals erased if we can use something more natural to kill COVID. And not only does it kill COVID, it kills all other viruses as well. So it's not something we're investing in just for COVID. It's definitely good for a lot of other viruses. Most viruses that we use for bleach are on the list. So that's the explanation.
Yeah, no, Peter, I completely agree. If there's an innovative way that we can save money to the school district and it's not chemically based to help our kids, I'm all for it as well. But I'm just concerned with the 2 items, which is we did have an issue at Mount Vernon School District in New York that was being a case study. And on top of that, I did not hear from our administration that they're looking for anything, because there are going to be cost implications. And as you know, and as Mr. Rutsky, as the former finance committee chair, could attest to it, we are staffed for any kind of resources. So is this an investment we can make, and how much of blue tabs do we have? Maybe not a discussion for this meeting right now, but something to consider to make sure that we're not rich enough right now to have multiple systems working in parallel, in tandem. So is this purely, and I heard you say, Mr. Tufano, that it is not just for COVID, but do we use blue tabs for other purposes throughout the year, irrespective of the COVID situation? Dr. Alwick?
Oh, I don't have that answer right now. That's kind of out of my wheelhouse. But again, this is just a disinfecting piece also. This isn't the cleaning piece.
Okay.
Mr. Stefano, it's my understanding that this is still in the exploratory stage, and Mr. Tague and the administration, of course, would make a final recommendation. This is just presented as some options. Is that correct?
That is correct, Michelle. We're not voting for this for tonight. We're discussing what happened at the committee meeting.
Okay.
And I think any fresh idea we could bring into the district to take us away from chemicals and save the taxpayer long term with an investment now up front should be explored. That should be the duty of our board, in my opinion.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to discuss this with Mr. Tufano?
I have another
Yes.
question, if I
Upa,
may,
please.
different than the disinfectant. So I think it's great that you are going to look at another school to start working on our referendum piece, since we had put that on hold unanimously as a board before the pandemic. I just want to make sure that as you go, I know, as we look at different buildings, to make sure that the building is going to meet our needs in the sense that it has the capacity. We want to make sure that we're not looking at schools that don't have the capacity, but also to make sure that we remember that our administration has done a lot of work over the last couple of years with different referendums to make sure that the design meets the needs of our school district. So just to keep that in mind, and especially that a lot of the classrooms are designed to meet our curriculum needs too. So I just wanted to make sure that the committee knew that and, was looking at those pieces as they go out there. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Madam President, I'm sorry, Rupa just reminded me. So who are the folks who have been invited to go to this school? Because I did not receive any such invitation or any information on it.
Mr. Pelori, I don't believe we've had the final determination yet.
Okay, fair enough.
I will discuss that with Mr. Tufano and Dr. Alvick, and if there's any room, I think we might open it up to other members of the board. Mr. Tufano, is that okay with you?
I have no issue with that. I believe the restriction was only put in place by the fact that COVID's in effect and we didn't want to have 20 people go to the school. And I think Dory had said that we would just invite the BG&T committee members now. And I guess if we have room, I don't see why, Dr. Alvick, if the school is okay with it, I don't see why anybody who wants to come can't come. I don't see a problem with that.
That would be my intention. And Mr. Pelori,
Absolutely.
If you're showing interest, I will certainly put you on the top of the list. How's that?
Yeah, just like we did with Edison, but that was before COVID. I think anybody who wants to attend should be able to attend, but I think there is restrictions put on us, not by Dory, but by the superintendent in Claremont School, correct? Am I wrong, Dory? Was that what
Yeah,
was
you're
involved?
correct. We just have to be considerate of that school because they do have students, there's students there, and we're going after the school day, so that any staff or students are out of the building.
Okay. I could probably address that tomorrow, Mr. Pelori. Dr. Alvick and I will probably have.
That's fine. As you all know, my expertise is in that area. If you guys want to use it, I'll be more than happy to do it for free of cost. If you don't think it's necessary, then I'll stay down. So
I think you're already on the list to be first invited after the committee members. Anyone else for Mr. Tufano? Okay, seeing none, may I have another committee report, please?
I have a committee report, Michelle.
Yes, Ms. Kirby, please.
Yes, the policy committee met on January 12th. The committee selected Katie Belko as the vice chairperson for the policy committee. At the January 4th, 2021 board reorganization meeting, the board voted to table the code of conduct for remote meetings document and sent it back to the policy committee to review. The committee discussed where to place the code of conduct for remote meetings as it did not reside in any bylaw or policy of the board. This document was approved at the June 10th, 2020 board meeting. The board approved a bylaw 0164.6 remote public board meetings during a declared emergency at the November 18th, 2020 Board of Ed meeting. The committee reviewed all the information in the code of conduct document and decided to place it as letter G in bylaw 0164.6 with some revisions to the wording. Bylaw 0164.6 is on the agenda tonight for first reading. There are also 5 policies on the agenda for second and final reading tonight. These were not discussed by the policy committee as there were no corrections or comments to send it back for further review. And that's my committee report.
Mr. Chiarella, please.
Yes, Mr. Minio, I just have a quick question for Mrs. Kirby. As part of the code of conduct that we all signed, right, that was the Board of Ed member code of conduct was on there. Use of cell phones during the board meeting is prohibited. Am I wrong?
Correct.
Okay, because when I'm looking at board members here, I'm seeing a couple board members anyway, on their cell phones texting people. So I just want to make sure that if everyone signed that we're mindful of following our procedures. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, I would hope we all adhere to that. One for all and all for one on that one. Anyone else for Ms. Skirby? Ms. Skirby, the ones that are on for second reading tonight, were they introduced in December? Did you want to discuss that?
Yes, that's what I said. They were introduced, they were approved for first reading at the December meeting. And the board at that time had no corrections or revisions that they were looking for. So the policy committee did not discuss those at their meeting, and they're on the agenda tonight for second and final reading.
Okay. Anyone else for Ms. Skirby? Seeing none, thank you. Moving on. Anyone else? Next. Were there any others?
The
Okay.
only other meeting was personnel, Mrs. Arminio.
Okay. So, Mr. Nicotinsky, did you want to make any comment regarding personnel? Of course,
Yeah,
keep in mind that we're not
we
discussing.
just did right. We just did a slight change on the job description for the in-house counsel, and that's all I could say. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other discussion? Shall we move to public forum?
One second, Michelle. I think
Yes,
the last meeting, we all agreed that once the job description is prepared, we were going to vote on it and move it to the for advertisement. So I think Adi just reported that it's been finalized. Is that what I heard from the personnel committee?
Yeah, it's on the agenda for tonight.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. And
All right.
Mr. Nicotinsky, could you read the only change? I think there was only a change to one line. Is that correct?
It's the term of employment. It was originally 12-month employee. We took that out and replaced it with appointed on an annual basis and compensation to be determined by the board. That's all.
That's the only change. Okay. Mr. Polari,
Yep.
are you okay? All right.
Yep. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Michelle.
Yes.
Yeah, can I ask a question about policy? It's Paul.
Mr. Paul Rutsky, yes, sir.
So was there any discussion in no, not policy, I'm sorry, personnel.
Go ahead.
For Adi. So was there any discussion in personnel with regards to finding teachers to fill the spots? I see we have 2 retirements, 6 resignations, and just countless paid sick leave for the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. Like, how are we going to reopen our schools? Was there any discussion about finding teachers to fill any of these spots or all of these spots? Or how do we expect to reopen, I guess is my question, when we have a whole page of paid leaves and resignations? Was that at all discussed?
Mr. Nicotinsky, did you want, or shall Dr. Alvick respond to that?
I think Dory mentioned that we have advertisements and I think temporary staff on hand, right, Dory?
Yeah, that actually was one of our main reasons why we were not able to open yesterday, is because of the number that we have. If you'll notice, though, the first coronavirus Families First Response Act, it actually ended December 31st. So many of those dates ended already. For many of the ones that are on the agenda this evening, they're retroactive approval. But we are actively seeking more substitute teachers for some of our short-term leaves, things like when staff need to quarantine. We are actively looking for that. We have a lot of staff members, I'm sure you'll see it on the agenda tonight also, that are picking up an extra 17% at the middle and high school to cover those sections. So we are continually doing that. We are actively seeking substitute teachers to fill positions when teachers have to be out of the classroom.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Alvick. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Ms. Arminio?
Yes, Ms. Rupa Siegel.
I have one more question regarding the board attorney posting. What is the process to hire the board attorney? Is it a board committee like we do for negotiations, or does the superintendent hire the board attorney? How does that process work?
If I may answer it, and then I'll have Mr. Gagliardo correct me if necessary. It was something that was discussed in the previous board in the December, I think in December, we sent a resolution that we would extend Mr. Gagliardo's firm until we hired a in-house attorney. I thought we talked about that being the preference, even though I think Mr. Pelori had some concerns about that in January 4th meeting. I also do recollect that Dr. Alvick said that the hiring of the board attorney was the purview of the board itself. Now, Mr. Gagliardi, if you have insight into any regulations based on that, I would ask you to please inform us.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. All right. So first, with regard to the change in the job description that you're talking about this evening, respectfully, it's a distinction without a difference. That is to say, all of your employees are hired on annual contracts with the exception of the superintendent of schools. And to the extent someone does not have tenure and the board attorney does not have tenure and can never obtain tenure, that person is still serving at the pleasure of the board, meaning that you're not obligated to keep the attorney on for the full 12 months, even if you hire them. Second, because you're hiring the individual as an employee, as opposed to an outside contractor like me, it's an employee like anybody else. And unlike an individual whose role is defined by statute, like board secretary, everybody else drawing a paycheck is someone who is under the purview of the superintendent of schools. So this individual needs to be recommended by the superintendent of schools and voted on by the board. Thereafter, whether the person remains is a board decision, but there is no individual, with the exception of a board secretary, put on the payroll does not have the affirmative recommendation of the superintendent of schools. This will come to you like any other personnel recommendation because the person's on payroll is different than any other outside professional who's not on payroll, like my firm, your architects, your engineers, your accountants, etc.
Okay, thank you. That is different from the discussion we had and was discussed on December 4th. I'm sorry, just in the last December meeting. So the recommendations will come to whom, sir? I mean, they would be to own. So all applications would go strictly to the Dr. Alvick as superintendent, or will we be informed as to the amount of applications?
You can and should get all the information you want about who's applying for the job. And because of the nature of the position, I would imagine that the board, probably by committee, but could be committee of the whole, will participate in interviewing the candidate. But the superintendent can't hire the person without the board's blessing, and the board can't hire someone who's not affirmatively recommended by the superintendent of schools.
Okay. I think just maybe by a show of hands, I want to have board participation in just about as much as we can without belaboring things. In a show of hands, I think we should have a full board recognition of the applicants. Is that acceptable to everyone? It seems like, Rupa, I don't see your hand. Okay. Okay, so it looks like everyone is in favor of that. So we'll have to arrange with Dr. Alvick how that will proceed. Is that good, Mr. Gagliardi?
That's fine. And certainly if you have any questions as the process goes along, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay.
Madam President, can I ask Mr. Gagliardi a quick question regarding this? If I recall correctly, when I had my orientation training, one of the things that they drove through us, our brains in the beginning, was the fact that the only person the board actually interviews and hires is the superintendent. And the rest of the staff is actually interviewed and recommended by the superintendent to the board, and the board approves or rejects it. Is my assumption correct or incorrect?
Your assumption is correct, but this individual is going to have an ethical and fiduciary obligation to the Board of Education. And I can't imagine the process being a successful one if the board doesn't have a role. So you were getting my recommendation. You were correct that if you looked in the statute, there's
you made your point.
Hiring
Excellent.
board attorneys, but I think the board has to have a role.
Absolutely. Agreed. Thank you.
Mr. Pelori, I have in my voluminous collection of board information a decision, I believe, by the State Board of Education, Department of Education, regarding that question, not specifically for a board attorney, but for other other
Positions.
hires. So I will get that out. Maybe I'll discuss it with the administration and Mr. Gagliardi and then send it out to the board of, the whole board. I don't want to make a statement that I am not correct in. So, but I do have.
No, Madam President,
a fast decision.
Yeah, I think the point he made is absolutely valid. Irrespective of what it says, if we can get involved, it's an important position. So I'm all for it. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gagliardi. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam President.
Valori. Anyone else? Shall we move on, folks? Okay. I believe next is our public portion, our public forum. Mr. Feldman, do we have people who are, first, may I let everyone know that it is an agenda items only, and I would ask that everybody state their name. If you can, please pronounce your name slowly so we can all learn how to do so in the future. And I guess we are still asking for addresses. Mr. Feldman.
No problem. I'm going to quickly share the phone number, and then we'll get right into the public forum.
Thank you. While you're doing that, Mr. Feldman, how many participants do we have at this time?
Madam President, 127.
127. That's great. Welcome everyone in the public. Okay.
Okay, so we'll get started.
Please.
If you're ready, Madam Board President.
Yes, please.
Michelle, could I ask Mr. Feldman a quick question, please?
We are in the public portion now.
Okay.
It has to do with that.
Actually, I just wanted to ask why I can't see the attendees in public, their names. Is there a reason for that?
I will check on that. You should be able to see that, but while doing this, I'll check on that. Mr.
Okay,
Thank you.
let us get started, Mr. Tefano, and he
Yep.
can work on that. Okay, Mr. Feldman.
Sure, Madam President, we have Brian Fabiano. Brian, if you could just lower your hand when you're done, please state your name and let me know if you need video. Thank you.
Brian Fabiano, 19 Patricia Place. I don't need video. Just a couple quick comments. First one is about the cleaning solution.
Mr. Fabiano, I don't mean to interrupt you. Is that on the agenda this evening?
Yeah, it was talked about in your.
Okay,
in your,
you're right.
in
It
your
was in our
B&D.
committee.
Yeah,
Okay,
correct.
sorry.
Can you reset my time now that
Yes,
you're cutting
please.
into my time?
Yes,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. Rookie mistake, Mr.
All right.
Fabiano.
So the thing I would echo there is, we should be looking at cost of solutions, but also safety. And if you look at the Rutgers recent study of Rutgers looking at a lot of these chemicals that not only the schools are using, but other institutions, if you look at the BRUTAB warnings, I'm not comfortable with anything that starts to talk about, the hazards of spillage and if it gets in your eyes and the hazard to the environment and what it can do if you're not wearing eye protection, this, that, and the other. I mean, the warnings are pretty stiff here. So for a minute, I think we need to look at safety while also balancing costs. So I'm glad to see that that's actually taking place. Sometimes the path of least resistance isn't always the best, especially when it comes to the safety of our kids. When it comes to building schools, I'm not really sure I agree with the comment. Let's make sure that we're building schools around the curriculum. At this point, we're so overcrowded. We need to build schools, and then we need to fit our curriculum into those schools. Having kids overcrowded and sitting outside the building and making an excuse why we can't get schools built is because they don't match the curriculum seems kind of foolish to me. We spent a lot of time, a lot of wasted referendums that failed. Let's get it right this time. The school in Somerset looks great. It's worked. I've heard a lot of excuses why it wouldn't work, but I doubt that the kids there aren't getting a fair education and a building that's built with a very good budget, and education is going on. So, I challenge this board after seeing that school. Let's get the show on the road here. And then the last question I have is for Dr. Alvick as it relates to staff shortages in opening schools. What other creative methods are we approaching at this point? If we are going to have a situation where, a certain percentage of teachers can't come back either because they've been exposed or don't want to come back or out on FMLA, whatever it is, what are we exploring to be able to keep the kids in the classroom? Can we have teachers that can't come back for a certain reason still teach remotely, but have a paraprofessional or someone in the room who's another adult to actually have the kids within the classroom, but still have the teacher teaching remotely so that instruction can go on? What are we doing creative? I mean, just to keep coming back and saying that we have staff shortages isn't going to, be an excuse that I think we can hang our hat on very long. That's all I have.
Thank you. Dr. Alvick, like to comment?
Well, we have done a couple of things already. Yes, we have teachers who, if they need to work remotely, we have an agreement with the MTEA where they can pay toward the substitute teacher that we put in their classroom. We have to have a certified teacher in the classroom if there's students in there. So that is something that we have already put into place, and we have, I don't have the number in front of me, but I have it for my report later, how many staff members have taken advantage of that agreement. So we also look at all of the available certificated staff within the building, and we utilize them to cover the classes that we need to cover. So exactly what you mentioned are things that we've already been doing. And this has been a juggling act since we've opened school. And it's not just our district that's having these issues. It's every district, because there is a shortage of people who want to come into the building. So the more substitutes we get, the more certificated staff that we get, the better off we're going to be. The more people follow the rules and the protocols, the better off we're going to be.
Are we finished with Mr. Fabiano?
10
Yes,
seconds.
Madam Board President, we have Mr. Ryback.
Okay. Mr. Ryback, Steve Ryback, how do you do?
Hi, I'm Michelle. Steve Ryback, 23 Riviera Drive. First, I just want to wish everyone on the BOE good luck. As every board, if you do well, our kids do well. So good luck to all of you. I do have two areas I'd like to discuss. One is certainly the hypochlorous acid cleaning agent. Mr. Pelori certainly brought up a lot of the questions I had, and Mr. Tufano actually helped answer some of those questions I had. So I'm really just going to emphasize a few things. One is about the brew tabs. I believe we have enough, and correct me if I'm wrong, brew tabs on hand to last a year. Now, they've been actually, from what I understand, very safely used in New Jersey. There was a problem caused by human error in mixing in Mount Vernon, where 6 teachers suffered pulmonary distress. Listen, I know you can go to any custodial closet and find chemicals, and sure, if we can limit the chemicals in a school, that would be great. But the fact is that they are there, and this machine does require humans to work on it and make a mixture. So it is opening up to human error and possible lawsuits. So we got to be very careful into that. I also asked that, since I mentioned we do have enough brew tabs for about a year, let's look at what we have in the budget. Let's find out what this machine would be. Do we have the money to pay for this comfortably? Or should we look at this more seriously, purchasing it and give it some time? I hope that within this year, this pandemic will die down greatly, since we're all getting inoculations. I don't know how long that will take, but it's something I think that we need to pace, because we do have something. It's not, to deal with this. It is effective. We have enough to last a year, and I don't think we really have the money to enter this, but it depends on what it would be. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the possible new referendum, and I know you looked at this Claremont Elementary School in Franklin Park, and it's a good idea for us to start opening this up and start looking at it. However, I noticed that the superintendent there mentioned that the building was made for 700 students, and I think the price was 36 million. Am I right, Ms. Arminio? I think it was 36 million on the cost. But currently, the building is housing 1,000. Well, to me, that means that building is overcrowded. And if you're thinking of replacing the Applegarth School, I know from our last conversations that we were planning a school for 1,000 plus students. So we have to build a school, look at a school that's going to meet the needs of Monroe, not the needs of Franklin Park. And I know you mentioned that it's very important for us to keep that in mind. In fact, I think we even said that the Applegarth School, if rebuilt, may house 1,200 students. So, let's not build something that will be overcrowded from day one. We remember the high school was at capacity when it opened at day one because the first referendum was voted down. So, at least let's do what's right at this time. And I know you all want to do what's right, and let's just build a school that will fit our needs. Thank you.
Mr. Feldman?
Yes, we have Mr. Poi. Mr. Poi, please state your name and address, and if you need video, please let me know. Thank you.
No video. Doug Poi, 4 Tamarack Road. I'm commenting on 2 items on the agenda. Under Board Action Item D, which deals with your in-house counsel. I noticed both January 4th as well as this evening that there is an advantage to having the in-house counsel present at the board meetings. And I hope that in hiring a new counsel for the board, that you will take that into account and consider making that part of their job description or requirements that they attend the monthly board meetings. I think their attendance is invaluable to the members of the board. Also, item H, which deals with the bylaw in terms of remote board meetings. I was happy to hear Mr. Chiarella speak up because I've often been concerned with these remote meetings that some members of the board may be resorting to texting during the board meeting, and that should not happen. And I'm glad to see that is included in the bylaw for the remote meetings as well as the normal physical meetings of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poi. Mr. Feldman?
Yes, Mrs. Board President, we have Ms. Patel.
Hi, my name is Anissa Patel of 8 Angelo Court. I attend Monroe Township High School. I just have a couple of questions about the required afternoon sessions starting February 1st.
Okay.
So what are you hoping the teachers will get done during the afternoon session? I feel like adding another 20 minutes of Zoom time to each class sounds like it doesn't leave much room to actually give any new instructions, because if we break down that 20 minutes, the first 5 minutes are spent letting in students from the waiting room and taking attendance. So what content can really be imparted upon the students in less than 15 minutes? I also feel like that's the time it takes to clarify homework questions, but that is not enough time to introduce new topics and trust that students are actually comprehending the content. I know some teachers have voiced concerns about the time. So for those teachers that will not have the lesson planned for the afternoon sessions, will they just give us that time to do homework, which would we be doing during that time anyways?
Ms. Patel, you're currently a senior at the high school, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. First of all, before I let Dr. Alvick answer that question, since she is in charge of that, or Dr. Lehman, I don't know if either one of you would like to comment, but I am grateful that you called, and I would like to encourage some of our, or any of our students to call in and help us through this, because you're on the, you're on the front lines, and I think we need to hear from you more often. Dr. Alvick, would you like to start, and then Dr. Lehman, if you choose?
Sure, I can start. Hi, Anissa. So one of the things that we've heard multiple times through board meetings from the community is that there is not enough time during the morning session. So that was the reason for the afternoon sessions. So if you think about your normal 86-minute block, think about the time that the teacher can break it up. There's going to be some time where there's going to be direct instruction. There's going to be some time where there's work. There's going to be some time where the teacher's working with small groups. So the 20 minutes in the afternoon may or may not be new information. It may be a continuation of what happened in class that day. So that's what the expectation is that we are giving more minutes more time for the students to be in contact with the teacher.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Lehman, Dr. Lehman, sorry.
I just add a little bit to that. We recognize that there are some seniors, some 12th graders that have different programs like Senior Out. And that's something that Dr. Higgins is working with the 12th grade teachers specifically on how to work with the students that may have job obligations or things that are already in place. That way they're not, there's no penalty or anything for them for missing any afternoon sessions. So we recognize that there are some students that may have unique circumstances that impact their ability to attend an afternoon session. And we're working with the teachers and the administration to kind of manage those individually.
If I may ask a question, Dr. Elvick, are you going to talk about this in your report? So I'll hold off.
The high school scheduling? No.
No. Okay, then let me ask the question. I know a lot of parents are looking for extended time. Is 20 minutes enough? I mean, and with all of the other, difficulties it is in scheduling, is there any more room for more time? Or is there room that students, I mean, I don't know if it would be unfair to students that can't attend. If students can attend, could we have more teacher face-to-face remotely?
Well, it would be putting our adding the afternoon sessions puts us almost at a full day for students, which would be normal classes. So if you think about teacher contractual time, we can't really extend it much further past that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Feldman, next.
Madam Board President, we have Ms. Wu. Ms. Wu, please state your name and address, and remember to lower your hand at the end. If you do need video, just a reminder, just let me know. Thank you.
Could you also please spell your last names? Go ahead. Hello?
Hello, Ms. Wu. Okay, seeing that she's not there for now, I'll go back to her a little later. We're going to go to Ms. Singh. Ms. Singh, you're up.
Ms. Singh?
My name is Vedka Singh from 13 Jake Place. I'm a freshman this year, and I have a couple of statements regarding the afternoon sessions. So you mentioned that it's the teacher's choice, like what they want to use during the afternoon sessions, but most students, such as myself, go to those sessions when we need extra help. And when you kind of mandate and force students to go, we're not going to learn how to advocate for ourselves, and we're not going to get help on the things that we actually need because of the mere 20 minutes. In addition, we're not going to be able to get help on our own problems and issues because the teachers are going to need to standardize their way of teaching instead of having a more specialized approach towards every individual who attends. That's all I want to say, and thank you so much.
I love it that our students are so in tune to their needs. I think we should take that under advisement, and our administration can talk about that. Thank you, Ms. Singh. Next, Mr. Feldman.
Madam Board President, we have Ms. Aziz.
Hello, Ms. Aziz.
Hi, I don't need the video.
Okay.
Sarah Aziz, 3 Lancelot Drive. I attended both the December and January Buildings, Ground, and Transportation meetings, and at the December meetings, Dr. Lynch said that the BruTab product produces the same exact solution as the equipment that Mr. Tofano was recommending, and that it produces hypochloric acid, which is exactly the same chemical produced by the equipment. And he said that the BruTab product, that hypochlorous acid is it has a very high level of quality assurance, and that producing it at the schools would introduce a new level of risk. Mr. Gorski said it could potentially raise our liability costs, and he knew of no other New Jersey school that was using this equipment. I'm concerned about cost. Also, my understanding is that we already have a year's worth of BruTab solution, and with people getting vaccinated, it's possible that we might not need this equipment after a year and a half. And I don't know how we're going to pay for it. I know that our budget is pretty tight. And so I'm concerned about the legal risks, the safety risks of basically turning our schools into, part-time disinfectant manufacturers. Dr. Lynch discouraged the purchase of this equipment at both the December and January meetings, and he is the expert in this subject. And so, I think that we should stick with the same product that all the other schools are using, the one that has a high level of quality assurance and that really produces the same exact substance that the equipment does. And I wanted to know, how much did we actually spend on the brew tab solution so far this year?
I think the answer to that question might be Mr. Gorski, if you have it, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Bear with me, I gotta pull up my phone. The comments from me were discussed at the BGT committee meeting. And I just have to check with our insurance broker to make sure that we're covered for this additional endeavor, make sure that it's covered under our policies. But as far as the costs go, last year it was $17,000 for brew tabs. And for 2020, it increased to about approximately $20,000 for brew tabs. And in addition to that, according to Mr. Tague, we also spend several $1,000s in 2020 on Lysol cans for different applications throughout the schools.
Mrs. East, are you satisfied?
Okay. Yeah, because I'm getting, based on the December meetings, I heard that it would cost about $280,000, and then the new vendor I reached out to, who suggested that it would cost about $43,000. I know that the cost is still not finalized. You're still working on it, but either number is really high, and so I was concerned that there might be cuts to services to pay for this equipment that, like I said, no other New Jersey school that I know of is using.
Just as a quick comment, I don't know that there is even a recommendation yet for this product. I think it is, again, in exploratory stages, and we've tried to bring a lot of things to the table in an exploratory way. It's not recommended yet it is not recommended from Mr. Tague or the administration, just exploratory at this time. Mr. Feldman?
Yes, Madam Board President, we have Ms. Camaretti.
Hi, my name is Virginie Camaretti of 17 Scheller Drive. I'm a freshman at Monroe Township High School, and I have a question regarding the mandatory afternoon sessions.
Go right ahead.
Is this required for all classes? Because I know in physical education, the afternoon session isn't really necessary because we're able to finish our workouts within the hour and have extra time. Essentially, this time can be used for other classes that students need help with. For example, some students stay in the afternoon sessions with their teacher and merge with the next session due to the fact they need extra assistance. I know that there are supplemental classes like CMAC and after-school biohelp, but since there are different teachers that instruct these lessons, when a student has a certain question that they are unable to ask in the afternoon session, it is difficult for them to figure out the solution that is wanted by their teacher.
Dr. Lehman, would you like to comment on that? If not, that's fine. If you just have a...
No, I just say any of the comments we hear from the high school students, we will bring back to Dr. Higgins. And the intent of increasing the instructional time in the afternoon is to really meet the needs of approaching what we would have in a traditional school day, and we were very close to instructional minutes. But there are unique classes, and there have been some classes that have already had mandatory afternoon sessions from the beginning of this. And the purpose of this is to kind of take the next step, getting back to normal, we'll put it in quotes. And any of this feedback we're going to bring back to him and his staff, and they can certainly take a look and see how to apply it.
And I would just like to say to these wonderful students who are contributing now, Have these discussions with your parents as well. We have parents who are very concerned about how the afternoon sessions are going to go. So I think if it's a great opportunity to have a parent student discussion. I think that would help us move forward as well. Mr. Feldman.
Board President, just an update. We have 8 more people online, so I just wanted to update the board with that information.
Thank you.
We now have we have Miss Marone. Miss Marone, please state your name and address and let me know if you need video.
I don't need video. Michelle Morone, 50 South Rhoda Street. I'm calling in for my concern about the extra hours of the high school. I know that you keep saying that the senior out, they have an option, but what about the juniors who have jobs or prior commitments that we've been going on this schedule for since September? It's not just the seniors. There are juniors who are 16 and 17 that do have issues. And I feel that just because a couple of parents complained, 20 minutes to each block is not enough. And the actual hours that were office hours were more helpful than actually sitting in a classroom. So is there a way that, instead of just saying that they have to go, really voting on it and listening to more of a whole than just some parents who complained at the last meeting?
Madam President?
Please.
We can
Dr.
take that back to Dr. Higgins also, the concerns. But if there's a specific concern for your child, I would encourage you to reach out directly to the school because they are working with parents.
Okay. Well, I was under the assumption that it was just the senior parents. That email said, and that's what, because we're working with the senior option. I didn't realize that it had to do with the other grades also.
Well, if there's a concern for your specific child, I would take it back to the building and have the discussion there.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, Ms. Marone? No? Okay, Mr. Feldman?
Yes, Madam Board President, we have Mr. Raganov.
Hey, good evening. This is Ram Rangnath, 6 Owens Drive. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How are you, Ram?
Very good. Thank you, Michelle. Just a quick comment. I really appreciate the BGNT, the chair, as is the team, really being proactive, right? Whether it's that blue tab, alternatives, I think it's a very good thinking, very good process. I like that proactivity, looking out in terms of managing our costs, looking out in terms of safety. I really encourage this kind of thinking and approach. We may land on a different outcome, but I think this is very important as a subcommittee and ultimately as the board. Similarly, on the Claremont School, right? It is important that at this situation that we are in, over the last many years, nothing has been done to really address our school crowding issues. So it's important we get back on that ball and really focus on starting to address this. I Googled some of the Claremont information as we're going through this. I don't know where Mr. Ryback got his numbers from, and I looked at the site. It says between 940 to 1,040 students is what is the numbers given for Claremont. So it's important, right, as board, let's make sure that we are getting all the facts together. I really appreciate that visit that's happening. But it's important that this board really takes that proactively, addressing the overcrowding. We need to expand our school. We still have the Applegate issue right in front of us. When I look at the enrollment numbers continue to go up for Applegate, but we have done nothing to address the Applegate issues. So no specific question, but really appreciate and encourage what the BGNT committee is doing, and look forward for some proactive outcomes coming from the Claremont school visit. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Feldman?
Madam Board President, we have Miss Lynch. Miss Lynch, if you could just state your name and address. Remember to lower your hand too when you're done, and let me know if you need video. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lynch. My address is 13 Norwood Avenue, and I'm a senior at the Monroe Township High School. And I also just wanted to discuss those soon to come mandatory afternoon sessions. So I've been going to those afternoon sessions since the beginning of the year, especially for the afternoon physics and chem help, and then occasionally for my math class. And I have found it so helpful because I've gotten one-on-one instruction with my teacher, and it's taken class just to a whole new level. Like, I can actually get a personal conversation with my teacher that obviously we aren't really able to have anymore because we're online. And knowing that the whole class will be mandated to be there, I don't mind it, but I'm sure there are kids who just go to the afternoon sessions just because they don't have to face that stress and pressure of talking in front of the whole class. And I feel that it takes away that like personal conversation and that connection that you develop with your teacher. And the students who are going to these after school sessions are doing so for their own benefit. These are the students who are working to get high marks and working hard. And I literally love the afternoon sessions, not only because they're personal, but in the fall I did soccer, and I have a job that's career oriented, and I can pop into the afternoon sessions on the days I'm off or when I go into work later. But I don't have senior out or early option, and reading the email saying that students without these things, even if they have a job, they'll just have to fix their schedules. I work at an orthodontist office. Not only is it career oriented, but they have set hours. It's either 9 to 5 or 12 to 6, and I can't adjust those hours. And I just feel that it would be unfair to put more stress, because I know I'm not the only one in this situation, so much more stress on students who are trying to balance school and a job, and I'm working to pay off my car. Like, I don't really have a choice. And I know that there are a lot of kids in a very similar situation, and if they're not, either way, it takes away the individuality of that afternoon session time. And like it was mentioned before, 20 minutes is just not enough. It takes 7 minutes to take attendance by the time everyone gets in and seated. Thank you.
Dr. Alvick or Dr. Lehman? Dr. Alvick?
No, again, we'll take it back to Dr. Higgins. But the other piece too is, since you're a senior with the job, you can reach out to Dr. Higgins about your specific situation.
Dr. Lehman?
I was literally going to say the same thing. Yep.
Okay.
We want to address everything kind of on an individual basis, because we knew there were going to be some schedule conflicts and things, and that's kind of the approach we wanted to do.
Okay, I just have, Will, if everybody talks to their teacher on an individual basis, is there enough time for many children, many students to do that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Feldman?
Madam Board President, we have Ms. Bora. Ms. Bora, please state your name and address. Please remember to lower your hand. Thank you very much.
Good evening. This is Ghazala Bora, 1 Miko Drive. I hope everybody's having a good evening today, all the board members. I want to address a question to Dr. Alwick and Dr. Lehman. But before that, I do want to take a minute to commend all these high schoolers who came on the public forum today. It was such a pleasure listening to you all and to listen to your perspective about the extended session. I would like to advocate for my own child as well. And my perspective is slightly different. I feel like mandatory afternoon session may not be an ideal solution. Instead, if we could increase the block times right now and maybe shift one block to the afternoon session, especially when I see what is crammed into a smaller block in AP and honors classes, just increasing that block by 20 minutes and keeping the continuity of the lesson is far more beneficial. And as a parent, knowing how much time I've been in remote learning in a half a day schedule, we cannot cram a whole year's worth of curriculum into half a day of teaching for the whole year. So I feel like if we could approach this, and this is a suggestion to the administration, if we have considered, or can we consider increasing the length of the block and moving one of the blocks to the afternoon session at post lunch break, because I feel like we would get a lot more out of that in terms of learning for the students. And my second question is that I know this has been mandated for the high schoolers. I do have 2 middle schoolers who would also benefit from either bigger block sizes or an mandatory afternoon session. So are there any immediate plans for that? Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you. Dr. Alvick?
So I do know that the high school looked at multiple ways to try to add more time, but again, we will share this information with Dr. Higgins. With response to the middle school, yes, the middle school will be sending out information about the afternoon sessions. I'm not sure if it was going to be this week or the beginning of next week, but there will be information going out from the middle school.
I believe Ms. Bora has left. Mr. Feldman, if she has, can we?
I'm still here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all
Go
right.
ahead.
I just muted myself, but
Okay.
I'm not sure I got the response to why the block cannot be extended. Is there a reason why, since we are making the kids come back in the afternoon, why can't we do a bigger block in the afternoon and do longer blocks during the day? That way, each teacher gets a continuous longer block period to cover more and instruct more than they're being able to do right now.
Well, I don't have a specific answer. I will take the suggestion back to the high school. I know the high school looked at multiple options.
Thank you, Dr. Alvick.
You're welcome.
Ms. Bora, are we complete?
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Arminio.
Thank you very much. Mr. Feldman?
Yes, Mrs. Board President, we have Mr. Caputo. Mr. Caputo, please state your name and address for the board and the record, and please remember to lower your hand. And everyone, please let me know if I do forget to ask. Just let me know if you need video. Thank you very much. It looks like Mr. Caputo has lowered his hand, so I'm going to move on to Ms.
I'm sorry, who?
Good evening. My name is Melissa Lynch, 13 Norwood Avenue. In regards to the solution that was proposed by the prior parent, that is not the best outcome because the kids who do have a job, the seniors who do have a job, would miss an entire block. That would not be fair to them. Not only am I speaking on behalf of my child, but many others. Her friends have reached out to me as well. My concern over the mandatory afternoon sessions, this is a great approach for students who are failing or need extra help, but certainly not for students who are principal's list, amazing athletes, and who spend their days making sure that they do their work, making sure that they keep their grades up. Many seniors have jobs not just to fulfill their entertainment, jobs to help their families pay bills, car payments, car insurance. They should not be penalized for working their hardest academically and achieving their limits, achieving their goals. I'm asking that a poll be taken for the parents of the seniors, because so many people have reached out to me in regards to this and the disparity between students who are not working to their potential, who are not logging on for remote learning, yet the contrast of the students who are every day doing what they're supposed to do. I'm an educator myself, and Mr. Lehman, I recall you from the elementary school. Amazing principal, one of the best speeches at any 5th grade moving up ceremony. To this day, I still make my bed. Thank you. I am an advocate for the students of Monroe. I am an advocate for parents who don't have the funds to provide cars, car insurance, and all the extras for their children. But I do have a child who is working beyond any imagination, anything that I could have possibly thought possible. These children do not need to be sitting for 20 minutes while at least 5 of it is being taken for attendance. They need to be working, part of real life. If they have an A average, why are you forcing them to do this? Thank you.
Any comment? No comment.
Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, thank her for her feedback, and we will definitely take this information back to Dr. Higgins.
Okay, I would just like to say that every child is important, and whatever, every child may have not the same resources as the next. Every child has also needs to be really honored for whatever ability that they have. And I would just like, congratulations to all the super achievers. We have others that are achieving at the best they can, and I would call them super achiever as well. So my point is, every student is regarded as valuable, and I'm sure every student is trying to work up to their potential. Let's try to encourage those who are not able to use all of the resources to go forward and do so. Thank you. Mr. Feldman?
Madam Board President, just an update. We still have about 8 or 9 on the list.
Oh, we're getting more. Okay, go ahead.
We're going to Miss Wu. Miss Wu, please state your name and address for the record. Okay, I'm not hearing anything from Miss Wu at this time. Miss Wu, if you want to speak, just go sign out and sign back in. Sometimes that helps if you're having trouble with audio. We're going to go to Mr. Osnowitz.
David Osnowitz, 457 Harmony Way. I don't know how many of you on the board are educators or currently in the classroom or ever been in the classroom. I've 42 years in education, 12 at Monroe Township High School. When I left Monroe Township High School, I went on to a supervisory position in Hudson County. And this is directed to the superintendent and assistant superintendent. Are you doing anything to help retain teachers? When I left Monroe Township, part of my position in Hudson County School District was retaining staff during normal times. This is abnormal times. I have not heard one word of encouragement for your faculty and for your staff. They are working through abnormal conditions. They are the frontline workers. I thank God I hear these students speak up, and they're gonna be wonderful, wonderful citizens. But what are we doing to maintain and keep teachers in Monroe Township?
Madam President?
Dr. Alvick, go right ahead.
Yeah, we actually we have not been losing teachers. Teachers are on leave, but they're not resigning. The last few people that we've had resign have actually gone on to supervisory positions. So we're not having an issue retaining teachers. Our bigger issue is hiring teachers right now, and that's because.
Dr. Alvick, you froze. Okay. Let me just mention that we had satisfactory contract negotiations with our union teachers, and I think they were very pleased with the last contract. So I think there is some retention ability in that last contract.
Well, it's not only about financials. Right now, it's about health and well-being. And
yes, sir.
That's, I think, of utmost importance. I have a daughter who teaches high school English in New Jersey, and she's teaching at the building remotely and with students. I don't know if I could have done that in my career. These teachers now are doing a boatload of work, and I think they deserve more than just a little pat in the back. I think every board meeting, they should be thanked for their dedication. Because let's face it, they're not paid like doctors or lawyers. They're paid as a teacher, and they accept that. I've accepted that in my 42 years of education. But give them the pat in the back they deserve.
Thank you. Mr. Feldman?
Madam Board President, we have Venetia Battelle.
Hi, am I on?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Venetia Patel, 15 Eldorado Way. I'm a senior at MTHS, and like my fellow students before me, I'm here tonight to voice my displeasure and concerns with the plan to make the PM sessions mandatory for all high school students. In the interest of time, I will focus on two main concerns that center around the health and well-being of the student body, since that clearly seems to be overlooked by all of the stakeholders making these decisions. The first is physical. So the digital eye strain that occurs when you spend too much time staring at a screen can result in anything and everything from headaches to blurry vision to neck tension, or in my case, nearly passing out last week. So we spend at least 4 hours in our morning sessions, and at least 4 hours if we calculate an hour for each block of homework that we have at the high school, and more if you're an honors or AP student, and another hour for class, which most of our students are participating in because we are active, as was noted by many board members. That's over a third of our day spent on screens solely for academic purposes. So you're telling us that adding another mandatory block of time for students that don't necessarily need it is beneficial somehow? Additionally, to support my argument, in a recent issue of the National Education Association magazine, NEA Today, if any of you are wondering, there was a piece on Zoom fatigue with input by a clinical psychologist. And let me read you what she said. She said that Zoom fatigue happens when we feel tired or even exhausted after overusing video conferencing. And this occurs because of a glitch between the input and the output of the Zoom. So really, the synchronous learning that we're talking about is not really synchronous, and that creates brain fatigue. Now, if we're talking only about physical, let's move into another section, social and emotional learning, something that has been touted by this district through many surveys that never bring actual results for the student body, at least not that we've seen. And I've been a district student all my life. In pages 33 through 35 of the social emotional learning and school culture and climate section of the New Jersey Department of Education Road to Recovery and Restart Plan, which I'm sure at least one of you here has read in making these reopening plans, let me quote a certain section. Quote, now more than ever, we must focus on the following: establishing routines and maintaining clear communication, prioritizing relationships and well-being over assignments and behavioral compliance, supporting students and staff in feeling safe, connected, and hopeful, end quote. Has there been communication? Yes. Has there been clear communication with the student body? Absolutely not. Has there been prioritization? Yes. Has there been a prioritization of connection and relationship building between staff and students? Absolutely not. Has there been support in some capacity for some groups of students? Yes. Has there been district and building-wide support for students so we have the foundation for academic and social success? Absolutely not. So to all of the board members that are encouraging us to being active and coming here, we shouldn't have to do this. We shouldn't be spending hours of our time at these board meetings fighting for a voice. Because, as I also mentioned previously in that document for the New Jersey Department of Education, in the same section, there's another quote: opportunities for connection and reflection among students, families, and staff, example, virtual town halls, small group online meetings, surveys, etc. It is critical that districts make time for these conversations and ensure that students' voices are heard, end quote. As I mentioned before, that has evidently not been the case. And let me just add this. The Board of Education is supposed to have 2 student representatives. I have failed to see either of these student representatives or a report from them since we've turned into remote learning.
Thank you very much for that. Dr. Alvick, I think you and I have had exactly that discussion about our student body representatives. Is that correct? And we intend to bring them aboard in our next the subsequent meetings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any comment, Dr. Alvick or Dr. Lehman? Maybe we should all reread that Department of Education, the opening again. I know it was rather voluminous, but we could always review it again. Next, Mr. Feldman.
Madam Board President, we have Ria Patel.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ria Patel of Fort Charter Court, and I'm currently a junior at MTHS, and I have some comments regarding the mandatory office hours. So teachers
Okay.
were really nice at the end of last school year and were giving little work because it was unprecedented times and times of unknown. But it was the beginning and everyone was hopeful that it would end. And now everyone's just stressed and upset and has very poor mental health because we're getting so much work. And a lot is unknown now. We don't really know what's going on when this pandemic is over, when life will be back to normal, and how we can boost our resumes when almost everything is closed. Now is the time we need the most support, not more added stress. And I typically attend office hours for my physics class, as it's a rigorous class and sometimes I need clarification. Myself and others go to the office hours as only a small group of us attend, and we feel comfortable asking questions during that time. This way we get a more descriptive answer and it's more one-on-one, and we don't have to worry about our peers judging us for asking questions. But with the mandatory office hours where teachers must teach us for those 20 minutes, we're not given time to ask those questions or even build a connection with our teachers. And now we also have to get letters of recommendations from those teachers. Yeah, we can't even build connections with them if it's going to be mandatory and it's going to be all of our class there and there's no more one-on-one time. So that I believe it may be more beneficial to just leave the office hours optional. And to add on, because I'm a junior, time is so precious. And because I'm juggling honors and AP classes and so many extracurriculars, like all of my peers, and many of my peers, because we have good time management skills, we use those times during office hours to do our other homework, study for our college entrance exams like the SAT and ACT. And many of us are independent and successful students. We have all A's and some B's. We know how to manage our time. We know how to do well in those classes. And making office hours mandatory just takes away from the precious time we already had. Yeah.
Dr. Alvick, I guess we don't need to reiterate your comments.
No, I thank the students for their comments.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Feldman.
Madam Board President, just to update, we have 4 more on the list. Next
Okay.
up, we have Mr. DiPiero. Mr. DiPiero, please state your name and address for the record and just let me know if you need video. Thank you.
No, I don't need video. My name is Charles DiPiero, 404 Spotswood Gravel Hill Road. Thank you. First, I want to say congratulations to all the new board members. First of the year, I'm getting a chance to call in. And I want to thank the past board members for their time and their energy on looking out for our children and our parents and taxpayers. And I also want to say, as our chair, Madam Chair said, no child will be left behind. I think that's very important that Monroe Board of Education does very good programs and schooling for all children, and we don't leave any children behind. As a lifetime resident, I've seen it time and time again, and I just want to thank the board for that. I have a question for Mr. Gorski on the 2018 budget. Do we have a surplus number that the 2019 that we're going to be able to carry into the 2021 budget and 2022 budget? Do we have that number yet?
Mr. Gorski.
Ms. Arminio, I do have that number committed to memory, although that's not on the agenda tonight. I'll just take a second to disclose if it pleases you.
Yeah, please.
For the year ended June 30, 2020, which is the 1920 school year, the surplus grew to a total of $5.1 million, which is an increase from the year before of about $1.5 million. That full amount of surplus, as I said before, is not extra money that's available to spend or commit, because you have to take only the difference of the amount above the previous year's surplus that is recycling. In other words, if the board was to spend this full $5.1 million this year in the budget, when you do a budget forthcoming, you would have $5.1 million of resources less available. So it's important to maintain that surplus and allow it to keep recycling year after year, or you will have a very constricted budget. I know that's a complicated topic, and I welcome you to give me a call if you want to discuss it further.
Is the CARE Act, what did we receive in funds for the 2020 CARE Act?
Mr. Gorski, is that?
I believe all that information is posted on our website. I don't have it handy, but it is posted on the website.
All right, so this equipment that the building and grounds is talking about, and a few residents called in. Some residents kind of shocked me where they said that they were looking into it as well and talking to representatives. Hopefully not the representatives that the board members or the board administration is talking to. But anyway, wouldn't that be an item that could be submitted for reimbursement for CARE Act? Mr. Gorski?
Ms. Arminio?
Yes, go ahead.
As I stated before, the speaker previously referenced my name with some information, and that information was discussed at the committee level where administration does provide technical resources. Certainly no conversations are going on otherwise. And as far as the CARES Grant Act that you've referenced, those amounts have been appropriated and submitted to the Department of Education already. The conservative amounts that we were awarded are already encumbered. We have no remaining available grant money for said purpose.
As a fire commissioner and also as a councilman, we do expenditures that we go into our buildings, and we do maintenance with the coronavirus and everything else that to disinfect, and we do get reimbursed mainly 100% most of the time. We do have some pending expenditures, but I can tell you we received a lot of money at the township level. It was close to $2 million on the first swing. So we do have another pending check waiting to come to taxpayers of Monroe. And I would just think that we need to work together and get these schools open and get our teachers. I want to thank our teachers that are doing a phenomenal job. It's not easy to do what they're doing and for this long period of time. And I also want to thank our students and the parents that are behind their children, because especially the ones that have multiple children, it's very, very difficult to have your student sit in front of the computer for hours and learn. So I just want to thank everybody, and please stay safe and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Mr. Feldman?
Yes, Madam President. Give me 1 second, please.
I gotta call her. She's got problems.
Mr. DePiero, you're still on. You need to get off or mute. There we go.
Thank you, Madam Board President. We have Mr. Malam. Mr. Malam, please state your name and your address and let me know if you need video. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't need video. Pradeep Malam for Jake Place. I want to echo what Ms. Borar said, like about having a full day schedule. So I requested multiple times to have a full day schedule for the kids. I don't mean to ask for mandatory afternoon sessions. We would like to have the full block schedule like what they used to have in-person school had. So we are now asking just to restore that one. Have 3 blocks in the morning and 1 block in the afternoon session. Each block contains 80 minutes. That's what we asked for. And the administration has mismanaged the request in certain way that morning 60 minutes or 55 minutes and evening 20 minutes, which is not going to help for anybody at all. You heard from a lot of school students and parents as well. That is my first point. And the second point, in the board meetings approval of minutes, I see only the December minutes are being approved. How about the reorg meeting? Usually there won't be any business in the reorg meeting, but as an exception in the January 4th meeting, you did some business and the minutes has to be approved for that meeting. I don't know whether it's a slippage or you plan to approve it in February. We don't know yet, but we need to keep track of that one. So these two are my requests or questions for them.
Mr. Malam, I would imagine that we will have all of January's meeting minutes approved in February. Correct, Mr. Gorski?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Feldman? If
Yes, We'll go ahead. We have two more people.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll try again with Mr. Caputo.
Okay.
Hey, good evening. My name is John Caputo. I'm at 15 Brandon Avenue. I have a couple of points that I want to talk about. Number one is the mandatory hours for the after school. I'm a father of 4 children, which are in the high school, 2 are in the middle school. Since the kids went to remote schooling, it has been extremely stressful on the kids to meet the requirements of having homework, their tests, their trying to keep some type of a social life, work requirements, all within a week. I have sometimes where the children are doing work until 10 o'clock at night, and that's without the mandatory sessions in the afternoon. When you start to add these mandatory sessions, you're extending these times, and I, as a parent, cannot advocate for anything that would have my kids doing work until midnight with uh, with the requirements that weren't even discussed, but were just uh, put forward. The next thing that I have is, even with this time that the children put in, the remote learning is nowhere near what the children get when they're in class. I think we're all aware of that, and a lot is put on the children to do themselves. It's put on the parents to try to assist with. And I can tell you, I'm a 43-year-old male. What they're learning now is very different than what I learned back in high school. So it's very difficult as a parent to try to assist. And I'm not being able to give them the same level of education that they would get if they were in a regular classroom. With that being said, we're seeing that the kids who are typically B and A students are now getting C's and D's in some of their classes. I've discussed this with teachers. Some were different learning styles that needed to be adjusted, different teachers that needed to be given. But why are we putting the kids in these situations where they're we've asked them to adjust their learning styles and their days, but we haven't adjusted the way that we're grading the kids. We're still giving them numerical grades where we're setting them up for failure. And as a parent, it's extremely disheartening. I can tell you one of the reasons that we moved to Monroe. I moved here from Staten Island and chose Monroe for the school district with the children. And with this remote learning and the requirements that are being put forward, I know we're all trying to do our best, but there has to be some give and take.
Dr. Alvick?
I appreciate his comments. It sounds like he is working with the school too. But again, we'll take it back to Dr. Higgins and take a look at this. I do appreciate that we're getting a lot of voices tonight, because in the past we've kind of heard from, a smaller number of people, and I appreciate the voices.
I think Dr. Lehman, anything?
At this point, I'll echo what Dr. Alex said. I think everyone is doing the best they can in this moment. I would love nothing more than to have everyone in the building tomorrow, and I think that's always our goal. And we have plans to move ahead. We just need the situation that we're currently dealing with to just move on, and then we are ready to roll forward as soon as we can. So that's my comment.
Okay, Mr. Feldman, one more perhaps?
As of now, Madam Board President, I do not see anyone else on the list.
Okay, shall we move to close the public portion? A show of hands?
Madam Board President, I apologize. Someone just hopped on if you want to take them.
Let's take one more, Mr. Feldman.
Okay, we'll take one more. We have Mr. Ioso.
Okay.
Tim Esso, 2 Allison Court. I did have my hand up the whole time. I don't know what, maybe there's an issue with your system.
Sorry,
Um,
Mr. Esso.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I understand. Things happen. No video, please, actually. Before I begin, I just want to say, I think it's great that all these young minds are calling up and giving their input on how they feel. I really find that a great way to learn and a great thing for our kids to be doing. I also want to say, possibly we're in unprecedented times here. We should probably cut Dr. Alvick and Dr. Lehman a little bit of slack. They're probably under such scrutiny to begin with, and it's probably a very, very tough time on what they're dealing with. So, but with that said, Madam President, I wanted to ask you, what was the chemicals that Mr. Tefano was talking about that he was using? The 2 chemicals, if you could ask him that question.
Mr. Tefano, you mean the ones that, the most
That he
recent
proposed.
that they're entertaining?
No, not the Brutab, the ones that Mr. Tefano proposed.
Right, yes. Mr. Tefano, can you answer that?
Actually, the machine, I could briefly tell you what it's about. The machine measures the amount of water, and the person who's mixing the hydrochloric acid just has to add, from what I understand, 2 cups of kosher salt to the machine. The machine introduces a electrical surge to the water, and that makes the hydrochloric acid able to be distributed into a spray bottle or a sprayer, and that's what would be used to not clean, but just to sanitize the area, like Clorox would do or Lysol would do. The reason why the product was used incorrectly in that New York district was because the person mixing it decided to try and mix that with other products. My hope is that our staff would be trained properly on it and it wouldn't be introduced into other chemicals that are harmful. Me personally, I'm pretty confident in our staff and that they're able to accomplish 2 cups of salt in water. And that's just my opinion. Okay. But does that cover your question, Mr. Esso?
Yeah, that does cover my question. But with that said as well, I mean, we had a caller, I believe it was Mrs. E's calling before, and called hydrochloric acid. It's not hydrochloric acid, it's hypochlorous acid. That's correct. One. Now, I can tell you this, as a public servant in public safety for over 25 years, any synthetic chemical is harmful, okay? I applaud you, Mr. Tefano, for finding these safety measures, not only for our kids, our students, our administrators, but my wife, who is a school teacher in the district as well. Having been exposed to these chemicals for over 25 years, I can tell you that they are hazardous. They're very hazardous. So for you to come up with a solution, okay, to provide safety, longevity for our students, our administrators, whether it be this year or 10 years from now, I do applaud that. You had a former board member call up and say, we have a year's worth of chemical. A year's worth of chemical. I don't care if we got 20 years worth of chemical. When you got my child, my wife, and all these students going to school every day and being exposed to this amount of chemical, and you can find a way to obviously cut back on the exposure of the chemical, my hats are off to you, Mr. Fano. I find that it's an excellent solution. That can't be my time.
Thank you.
That's 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Esso.
Okay, Mr. Feldman.
We do have a couple more, Madam Board President.
Okay, well, we want everybody to have a say, so go ahead.
Okay, we have Ms. Caputo.
Miss Caputo, okay.
Hi, I don't need audio. It's Dr. Stephanie Caputo, 28 13th Street. I have 2 students in the middle school, 2 in the high school, and needless to say, this has been a challenge. And as you've already heard, the concerns with this mandatory PM sessions, if some students were already told that the afternoon sessions are going to be used for homework. So if they have to be forced to attend an afternoon session just to do homework by the time they log back on in the afternoon, homework could already be done, being that school's over at 11:37. So I'm not quite sure why that's even going to be mandatory if it's not even going to be used in a way to add to the lesson that was maybe brought up earlier in the day. With that being said, another student brought up the fact that in order for learning to occur, it needs to be cohesive. So if they are going to attend in the morning, then have an hour and a half break and then log on for maybe 15 more minutes by the time attendance is taken. I'm not quite sure what more learning is actually occurring at that point. Also, with the page-long list of teacher shortages, or rather staffing issues that were brought up, is that going to be, addressed, since remote learning seems to be what is going to continue? Because without having sufficient amount of teachers to actually be present in the building, it doesn't seem likely like these students are going to be back in school in the normal way anytime soon. And if remote learning is here to stay for longer than we all anticipated, is the curriculum at all going to be modified? Teachers, I believe, were just being excused from the student growth performance standards. So if they are going to be let off the hook, so to speak, for performance, I'm not quite sure how students are going to be. They're going to be remained, liable for their performance when they're thrown into a situation that, is basically foreign to them at this point and is not being modified whatsoever. The curriculum was designed for a completely different way of learning, and now that is not the case. So perhaps time and effort could be spent in modifying that. Also, grading. It continues to be, I believe, numerical. Yet, for it to be numerical, there's not even a level playing field. You need fairness in order to have numerical grades, and you can't even account for that. There's no control over what is going on in homes. Yes, students should be held accountable that their work is their own, but there's no control for that in place. So for them to be held to a numerical grade when there's things like maybe they don't have the best technology available to them, so the device they're using isn't up to par, or maybe their Wi-Fi isn't the greatest in their neighborhood, and that's affecting their ability to remain logged on during the whole time during a Zoom, or even just, the quality of work they're submitting is affected just based on those types of factors, but yet they're still given a numerical grade. Also, their accountability, students are remaining to be accountable for their code of conduct. However, I'm not quite sure what's happening with the professionalism of teachers. Now, there's cell phone calls that are happening during Zooms. Class is being dismissed sometimes early to get back to a personal phone call. There are toddlers walking in a Zoom. Class time is already limited, and then time is taken away to redirect the teachers, their own children, from entering Zoom calls. If you are physically working, then I would imagine that's a household. So I'm not quite sure, how that is even being addressed at this point. I'm guessing that might.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Caputo, those seem to be very good and different comments. Dr. Alvick, would you like to comment on some of the concerns about teachers?
I think I wrote down most of them. Again, the mandatory sessions, we're going to take that back to Dr. Higgins. We've said that. The staffing issues, as I mentioned earlier, many of the staffing issues, especially the ones that are listed as Families First Coronavirus Response Act, most of those ended on the 31st. So even the ones you're seeing on the board agenda are not necessarily still in play. But I will share numbers in a little while of exactly how many staff members that we have either on leave. I'll leave the curriculum and the SGO question to Dr. Lehman, because we've done a lot of work with modifying our curriculum because of the situation that we're in. And grading was something that has been discussed. I know it was discussed at the reopening plan. I'm going to say specifically at the high school, where grades tend to come in the middle school. That is something that, has been a lot of people have wanted the grades. They didn't like the pass fail in the spring. They wanted the grades because they want students to be held accountable, and we're continuing to do that. The professionalism of teachers, I have to tell you that I'm I'm kind of surprised with some of the information that you just shared, and if there's something specific, please reach out to the building principal and let us know if there's something going on. But our teachers have really been working very hard. A lot of them have their own issues at home with childcare, just as every parent does that's going on. But our teachers are working very hard, and they are, learning something new as we go. None of us have been trained for this situation, and we're all trying to work through it to the best of our ability. But if there's something specific going on for your children, I encourage you to reach out to the school. I don't know, Dr. Lehman, if you had something about SGOs or the curriculum.
Yeah, I can speak to the curriculum piece. So the content area supervisors are the driving force for the day-to-day collaboration with the teachers and balancing what we call the depth, how deep you go into curriculum documents and how deep you go into content, and the breadth, how much you need to cover, how much is to be covered. And what they did is they worked with the teachers at the middle school, high school level, and at the elementary level, and they took a look to see where are the students going next year, what are the essential items that need to be covered, where is there room to kind of deep dive in, where is there times where we want to focus on the breadth of the curriculum instead of the depth. So that's an ongoing process. The supervisors work regularly with the teachers to do that. The teachers give feedback about pacing, where they are. The content area supervisors work to ensure teachers of similar content areas, and that's grade bands all the way from K up to grade 12, are in similar places, because we know we want to be flexible if students end up having to move classes or sections, that they get missed topics and things when they have to move around. So that's something, it's an ongoing process. It's literally day-to-day work that the supervisors are doing.
Mr. Gorski, that time is lapsed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Feldman.
Yes, we have two more as of now on the list. We have Mr. Kamar. Mr. Kamar, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Pranay Kumar of 8 Cornell Avenue. Firstly, is there any information available on the status of midterms and final exams for high school students?
Not yet, but I know that Dr. Higgins and the administration is working on that.
Hi.
Mr. Kumar, go ahead.
Since Shanwu is having tech issues, I'm relaying this on her behalf. Like myself, she's a senior at MTHS, and here are her concerns about the upcoming schedule changing that is currently slated to go into effect on February 1st. As a senior, we have the opportunity to leave school earlier than some of my peers and spend that time productively. Using Chan's case is as a video production intern for the school district. She considers it a job as it is a paid position. She also works as a student page at the Monroe Township Public Library. With the change to the mandatory PM sessions from 1 p.m. to 2:20 p.m. for all high school students, it means that students like her, who are essentially working two jobs, are being forced to spend time in classes that we don't need extra instructional time in. It is clear from this blanket schedule change that a key factor has been left out: the ongoing economic crisis. Many families in Monroe and Jamesburg have lost breadwinners, which has put an additional burden on older children to take an unemployment so their families can make ends meet during exceptionally difficult time. As easy as it may be for administrators to ask via email that we try to be flexible during this transition period, that is much harder to do in practice. So we ask the Board of Education and administrators to reconsider this decision, as it is not in the best interest of students and families who are already trying to keep afloat during these unprecedented times. Thank you.
Very nicely done. Thank you. Mr. Feldman?
Madam Board President, as I see now, there is no one else on the list.
Okay, I think we've already agreed to close the public portion. I'm sorry, folks, that we went beyond that. Public portion shall be closed. Mr. Gagliardi, we don't have to have a motion and a second for that, do we? I don't read lips, sir. Unmute yourself.
I was muted by Mr. Feldman. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
As president, you control the flow of the meeting, so you are free to
Okay.
declare an end to public session at any time.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Alvick, I think you are finally given an opportunity for your superintendent. Oh, sorry, Dr.
Dr.
Lehman,
Lehman.
you are given your opportunity for your report. Thank you.
So I just wanted to, and I do this every month, and I said I would do this until we're out of this situation, but I just want to thank everyone for their coordination, their cooperation as we navigate through is an understatement of the year, calling this a non-traditional school year. And I just want to share some highlights here from our high school clubs. I worked with Dr. Colella, he worked with the club advisors. I have a significant list, and what I'll do is I'll spread them out over the next few meetings to highlight some of the tremendous work that the advisors, the students in the clubs, the club presidents, our student body, all the work they've been doing. Despite our situation, our high school clubs are flourishing, and first club or team to be recognized is the academic team. They placed first out of 117 schools nationwide in the Questions Unlimited online 3-2-1 fall academic competition. This has qualified the MTHS team to play in the Questions Unlimited National High School Academic Challenge for the first time, and it will be held virtually in June. So that's something that they're looking forward to. The National Art Honor Society, they met with the Clearbrook community members to host an art Zoom in which students and community members collaboratively worked on an art project together. They also met again with Clearbrook more recently on January 6th to host a show and tell showcasing student artwork, which was a visual reflection of what the students were grateful for in 2020. The National Honor Society members launched a district-wide virtual tutoring program. The NHS members provide free virtual tutoring for students grades 1 through 12. Members of the school district may utilize this service as needed Monday through Thursday on school days. If there's anyone that's interested, they have a strong participation in this. They did reach out to families earlier in the school year, but if anyone is interested in this, the high school main office can give you the contact information. It's all done through Google Classroom, so there are links and signups that way. And that's the easiest way to get started is reach out to the high school main office and they can connect you. Future Business Leaders of America, that's FBLA. You hear that a lot. You also see that a lot in the board agenda of approvals and things for the staff members, but 183 members, student members, participated in a virtual FBLA regional competitive event on December 15th, 2020. 112 out of the 183 members placed in that competition and advanced to the next level of virtual competition, the State Leadership Conference. That's when the next level of competition will take place. Will begin in February and continue through April. One of the most successful clubs we have, and all clubs are successful, but this is a continually successful club, the FBLA club. So those are the four I'm highlighting this month. But like I said, I have probably 10 or 12 of them. I'll cycle them through over the next few months and they'll continually be updated. But I just wanted to share those outstanding accomplishments. And also I just wanted to thank the Monroe Township Middle School for hosting 6th grade virtual band concerts. Again, thinking outside the box, being creative, but still being able to recognize the amazing things our students are doing. There's so many students in the 6th grade band this year that they have 3 nights of concerts, last night, tonight, and tomorrow night. So thank you very much. Tremendous job for all the student performances. Thank you to all the staff facilitating that and all the teachers being flexible, because we all know, especially in the elementary and middle school, band instruction is a rotating schedule and they do leave their core instructional classes on a rotational basis, but there is some catch-up work and flexibility from our classroom teachers as well. So thank you to everyone involved in making our program successful. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Dr. Alvick?
Madam President, may I ask a question?
Oh, certainly, Mr. Pellori.
Thank you. Dr. Lehman, the governor issued some sort of a I believe, executive order that waives the graduation assessment requirements for the benefit of our parents in the district, can you elaborate on that, what it means to a senior, what it means to others? And I just also saw an email that came out today about the pre-SATs are going to be canceled. So can you please elaborate and let our residents know what's going on?
I'll start with PSATs, and I don't have the EO in memory, ingrained in memory, but I can give you a general kind of summary of what that covered. So Dr. Higgins communicated about PSATs today. They're canceling PSATs that were originally scheduled for January 26th. Basically, in the email, they're communicating that if students needed the PSATs to participate in the National Merit Scholarship Program, that there is an alternative for students to acquire the test needed. And in that email, in that communication, are the links and appropriate kind of ways to funnel into it. Basically, they can take SATs in preparation for qualifying for the National Merit Scholarship Program. Again, the details are in the email that went out to the families today, but it just comes down to the format in which the PSATs would have been given, as well as the proctoring issues we had. They had to make the unfortunate call to postpone, but they did provide an opportunity. There's actually 2 opportunities prior to the deadline in order for students who need this assessment to engage in it prior to the deadline for the National Merit Program. And then the graduation requirement waiver, again, I said I don't have that in front of me, but basically if students have already met graduation requirements, then they are excused from having to take the assessments and things that may be coming up. And this is just grade 12 upcoming seniors, graduating seniors. So that's the quick summary of that.
Anyone else care to ask Dr. Lehman?
Michelle,
yes, I see you. Mr.
it's Paul.
Rutsky.
Okay, so hello. So Dr. Lehman, you just mentioned something and it really got me thinking. So one of the more enjoyable parts of our board meetings when we were live and in person were the student displays and performances they would put on for us. So you mentioned some clubs and you mentioned the band, and I'm wondering if there's any way, starting at our next meeting, that we could have some sort of school performance, band, chorus, what have you. Would be a great sort of reminder that we are here for the children. And we go through these long meetings and we talk a lot about everything that has to do with the school district, but a live performance from one of the student groups at each meeting going forward, I think would be a wonderful addition. That's my suggestion.
Mr. Rutsky, I was actually going to talk about that, or at least discuss something like that for at the board president's report. Again, I'd like the buy-in from the full board. So I'll reserve that, and I guess we could talk to Dr. Lehman. But I take your position. Anyone else? Ms. Skirby, unmute. There you go.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Lehman. I had a question in regards to the PSAT. So is the state going to be, or is there any discussions about graduation requirements in the future being changed as well? Because I know the PSAT sometimes is used, we usually offer them to our sophomores to take as well as juniors. And the sophomores were already told this year that they were not taking them. But the PSAT has been used in the past to meet that graduation requirement. I don't know what standardized tests they're going to be, if any, they're going to be administering this year. But it is a trickle-down effect then for the juniors and the sophomores, eliminating the PSAT opportunity for them to take that to meet that graduation requirement. So I'm just wondering if you're hearing anything, I guess at the state level, with any changes that they're going to be making in the upcoming years as well for the graduation requirements.
Dr.
So as of now,
go ahead.
Yep, no, as of now, the only formal communications we've heard are related to this current school year's graduating seniors. Even the NJSLA assessments in the spring, we are proceeding as if we were going to give a full NJSLA assessment, pending any further adjustment by the state. So they're taking, it seems like they're a very small chunk at a time. And this is the first chunk they took in terms of this year's senior graduating class. There's been no feedback, either any rumbles, rumors, or anything about future graduation requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, Dr. Alvick, would you like to proceed?
So good evening, everyone. Since this is the first superintendent's report with the new board, I'd like to welcome our new board members, Ms. Belko, Ms. Bierman, and Ms. Skirby. I look forward to working with all of you. I'd also like to congratulate Mrs. Arminio and Mr. Nicotinsky on their election as board president and vice president. I'd like to begin this evening with recognizing some of our excellent educators. We did not have the opportunity to recognize last year's Governor's Teacher of the Year and Educational Services Professional last May, and now we've actually named this year's recipients. So I want to ensure we give them the recognition that they deserve. So each educator will be receiving a plaque at their home school that recognizes this accomplishment. Mr. Feldman, am I able to share my screen? Mr. Feldman?
I apologize, Dr. Alva. Can you please repeat? I had to step away with my son.
Can you please allow me to share my screen?
Yes, no problem.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
All right. So last year, we were able to recognize our Governor's Teachers of the Year and our Educational Services Professionals of the Year. So this is for the 2019-2020 school year. At Applegarth School, oops, sorry, I think I went one too far. At Applegarth School, our Teacher of the Year is Mr. Chris Chiarella. He is an instrumental teacher at Applegarth School. As you can see, these are last year's pictures. That's why you can see us grouping together. So we celebrated these and presented these in December of 2019. The Applegarth Educational Services Professional of the Year was Shari Sigismondo, who's a classroom paraprofessional. At Barclay Brook School, our Teacher of the Year is Miss Catherine Monona, preschool teacher. And at Barclay Brook School, our educational support professional is educational services professional is Marlena Beaton, our school nurse. At Brookside School, our Teacher of the Year is Miss Beth Nagel, fourth grade teacher. Also at Brookside School, our educational services professional is Miss Tiffany Spadafora, our physical therapist. At Mill Lake School, our school's Governor's Teacher of the Year is Trisha Abrams, grade 3 teacher. And also at Mill Lake School, our educational services professional is Miss Kathleen Sizik, basic skills teacher. Monroe Township High School, Governor's Teacher of the Year, Mr. Joe Rooney, language arts teacher. Monroe Township High School Educational Services Professional is Brittany Adelino, our school psychologist. Monroe Township Middle School Teacher of the Year, Miss Jessica Consiglio, Spanish teacher. Monroe Township Middle School Educational Services Professional is Miss Dana Oberheim, our school counselor. Oak Tree School Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Danielle Dow, our grade 3 teacher. Oak Tree Educational Services Professional, Dr. Maria Colon, our school psychologist and child study team member. Woodland School Teacher of the Year, Mr. Nick Reinhold, 5th grade teacher. Woodland School Educational Services Professional, Mr. Chris Tagliaferro, Workstation Specialist. So I would just like to congratulate all of them. All are excellent staff members. And this year we did also present to the next year's teachers. So we will be doing that presentation in May. But I wanted to make sure that they had their presentation. So they will be receiving their plaques at their school. So moving on to the reopening of schools, because I know that there were some questions about this. As you already know, the district postponed the return to hybrid until February 1st. This was decided for two main reasons. The first reason is that we had the highest number of COVID cases in Monroe yet last week. Last week, the township reported 184 new cases. I'm hoping that this is still residual from the holidays and it will start to recede. The district also uses the New Jersey COVID-19 Activity Level Report, or CALI, C-A-L-I report, that is issued by the state each Thursday afternoon. The entire county and state continue to be in the orange or the high level. The level is determined by a formula that considers case rate, percent of COVID-like illness, and percent positivity. The case rate for the Central East region, which Middlesex County is a part of, is the highest in the state and is in the red level. At the orange level, the recommended action for schools is to enable remote learning for all students. Although this is the recommended action, it is not yet required. If the county or region hits the red or very high level, it requires schools to move to remote learning. So right now, according to last Thursday's CALI level, we are still in the orange level. The one section of it is red. So one of the three pieces that they look at. The larger issue that we were contending with at the end of last week is ensuring that we have a certificated teacher or substitute in every classroom with hybrid students. We must meet the requirement as an employer to provide the agreed upon leaves as needed for staff, including medical leaves, childcare leaves, and leaves due to the pandemic as allowed. We had 7 staff members alone request accommodations to work remotely at the end of last week. We currently have 23 staff members on extended leave. We have 21 staff members utilizing the MTEA agreement to work remotely with a substitute in the classroom. That was the agreement I mentioned earlier, where the teacher agrees to, they're able to work from home, but they agree to pay part of the substitute cost in the classroom. While the substitute is in the classroom with the students, but the teacher is teaching the students in the classroom and remotely. And we have many staff members required to quarantine due to exposure or symptoms of COVID. Now, these numbers are as of noon today. They actually have increased since then. But when I wrote this report at noon today, that's where these numbers are coming from. And I'll share the numbers for quarantine in a minute. We only have a limited supply of substitute teachers that are willing to come into our schools to teach. Our administrators have been covering classes on a regular basis when we were in the hybrid model. We've pulled staff members such as our reading specialists, interventionists, guidance, and special area teachers to cover classrooms. We continue to advertise for more substitute teachers, and we process their applications, but that does take time. We're required to do background checks, and they have to apply for substitute certifications. So at the high school and middle school level, teachers are working above their 100% contracts to cover classes. This has been an ongoing juggling act at each building. We were ready to reopen yesterday, except for the last few requests. Hopefully, if the numbers diminish, our COVID numbers diminish, staff members come off the quarantine list, we'll be able to open February 1st for our gold hybrid students. It is our goal to get the students back into school. Since I do know that we are compared to other districts in the county, just for reference sake, there are currently only 6 out of 28 districts in Middlesex currently in the hybrid model. So 6 out of 28 districts. Our current COVID numbers are as follows. So to date, since November 1st, we have had 35 staff members test positive, 25 in the last month. We've had 90 students test positive, 64 in the last month. So currently we have 28 staff members and 93 students quarantining for symptoms, exposure, or travel. This number changes daily based on the reports that we receive and the timetables for quarantining. I want to thank our nursing staff for keeping this up to date. They have done a stellar job of keeping me informed of all of these numbers. We are also looking at the number of parents who are requesting remote for their students. So the high school has reported on a survey. They updated the survey as of yesterday that we actually have 81% of respondents want their children to remain fully remote. At the middle school and the elementary schools, we did not send out a brand new survey, but what we've asked parents to do that is if they wish to change either from remote to hybrid or vice versa for the third marking period, to notify the administration and we would make the change for them. And so far, the numbers are kind of holding steady. There's a few both ways. At the middle school, we have 69% of students are requested to stay remote. At Woodland School, it's 53%. At Applegarth School, it's 88%. At Brookside School, it's 68%. At Mill Lake School, it's 46%. At Oak Tree School, it's 88%. At Barkley Brook, it's 61%. We're looking at multiple things as we continue to move forward, but remaining in the orange level with the numbers as high as they are is what makes it very difficult. We want to maintain that 6 feet of social distancing in the classroom. And with the schools that are not, that do not have a higher number of students staying remote, there's no way for us to combine cohorts or have students come in 5 days a week yet. But we're continuing to monitor that. We will do all that we can to reopen for the hybrid students on February 1st. And I encourage everyone in the school community to follow all the safety protocols so that we can return. That's the part of my report. I was going to move to the agenda unless there's any questions on that. Mr. Arminio, you're muted, Mr. Arminio.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rutsky.
Yeah, Dr. Alvin, if I could just ask, is there any talk at the superintendent roundtables or through the teachers unions, is there any coordinated effort to try to get our teachers vaccinated as a collective group? Because obviously the sooner our teachers get vaccinated, the sooner we can thoroughly get our schools better and fully open. Is there any discussion about that?
We have discussions about that every single week. Unfortunately, there is nothing available right now. We're continuing to reach out. I also speak with our township OEM. I actually speak to Chief Bienes almost daily because of the numbers. There is nothing yet. It's really right now every man for themselves to try and get on a list for the vaccine. But I've reached out to any place that I can. I've reached out to our Department of Health. I've reached, any place that we can think of. I've been trying to reach out to see if there's any way we can do it. Our nurses have also reached out, and some of our nurses have even offered to provide vaccines because they were looking for licensed nurses to be able to give the vaccine. And they've put their names on lists and we haven't heard anything. So we're continuing to try that. I know that the township is going to hopefully have in the future have a place for vaccines. I'm open to anything. If anyone hears anything and they have a lead for me, I'm willing to look into it because I agree with you. The quicker that we get everyone vaccinated, I think that we'll be able to have more staff in the buildings.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Alvin.
Ms. Bierman?
Yes, Dr. Alvin. Do you have a number that quantifies what you're looking for in diminishing cases to reopen February 1st? So if we're at 184 now, is it 160, 130, 120 lower?
No, it really isn't, because that really affects how many, when there's a case, if we were open and these cases were happening while we were open, we would have a lot more staff and a lot more students having to quarantine because we would have to do the contact tracing and that piece. So no, there's not a number that I'm looking for that we have to diminish to. It's just an added piece to everything that we're dealing with. If we have the staff that we can open our buildings, I'm ready to open the buildings.
Mr. Pellori?
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Alvin, a couple of things. First and foremost is the presentation that was excellent. We cannot really compensate our teachers the way we really wish we could. And this is definitely an incentive for them. And if there is a way that we can put that up on the school website so that the public can see it and the students can see it, that'll be at least some recognition. That's number one. Number two is, from what I'm beginning to see about administering the vaccine, is that each county is doing it by themselves. And if you go to the county website about vaccination, you start seeing a list of qualified people. And I believe educators are part of the list of people they're taking. You may not get an immediate date for vaccination, but definitely you can apply right now. But having said that, you're still going to stand in the queue and wait for things to open up. What I strongly suggest is to work with our county school district and also with the county administration to see if there's a way we can expedite getting our teachers and school administrators vaccinated as quickly as possible. If you need any help in contacting people, please reach out to me. I'll see what we're doing at the Middlesex County College and maybe come back and share that with you just to see if we can compare apples to apples and see if there's something can be done. That's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, the superintendents in Middlesex County meet weekly along with our county superintendent, and it is a conversation that we have every single week because we're all trying to figure out how we can get this done.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes, hi. Dr. Alvick, I had a couple questions in regards to the school being closed. So if I understand correctly, the main issue was the staffing, that we didn't have enough staffing. But if we're looking at 81% of the kids saying that they want to stay remote at the high school, and large percentages, Applegarth 88%, Oak Tree 88%, is there any possibility, I mean, is there a concentrated area of schools that had staffing issues? Is it across the entire district? We couldn't open one building. And is there any opportunity to open up even special ed classrooms? I know, there's been a lot of outcry from parents that, these are students that really should be in the building. And, if it was a staffing issue, then can we look at opening classrooms throughout the district where we have students? Because I think I read that teachers are allowed to come back into the building to teach in their classrooms. If there's hybrid students that should be in those classrooms, can we start allowing them to come back in? And if not, why not? I mean, I think that would help those students that are struggling the most, that want to come in person. If we have their teacher in the building teaching, why aren't we allowing the students then to come in for the hybrid?
That's actually something we were looking at even when we were hybrid before, that if there was a class that had to quarantine or a teacher that had to quarantine, then we quarantined the class. We had the class work remotely. So that's something that we're looking at. Unfortunately, with the last minute need for substitutes, we didn't have the staff that could even come in the building to figure out which classes had it and which classes didn't have it. But yes, we would definitely do that, because I actually had one class that, because of the teacher having to quarantine, that class was going to be remote, and that we were starting with. So yes, that is definitely a possibility as we move toward February 1st, that if we have certain classes that can't come into the building because there's no teacher there, then we would keep those classes home, but get everyone else in. So yes, that is definitely a possibility and something that we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, anyone else? I thought I saw another hand. Oh, Ms. Belko.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Alvick, so you mentioned substitutes, so it kind of jogged my brain. What exactly is the issue of not being able to have substitutes? I remember a time when the subs were kind of fighting for spots to come in. So where are we with that? Do you know, other than the obvious, people don't want to come, they don't want to be exposed, but I know of some substitutes who really are kind of looking to work, but they're they've decided not to. I didn't get into details with them, but I'm wondering what is the issue, beyond the obvious.
There really isn't anything beyond the obvious. We've reached out to every single one of our substitutes. We've offered training. Some substitutes have come in for the training and then said, no, I don't want to come into the schools. We've actually have some who have gone through the training. They've come into the school and worked a few days in the school, and then we were able to allow them to work from home, similar to what the teachers are doing. So we're trying to offer as many options as we can to get the substitutes working, but we do need people in the schools for when we have the hybrid students in. But we reached out personally to every one of our substitute teachers through emails and offered the training for them.
Okay, can you tell me how many substitutes we have right now, and then what are we doing?
We had almost 200 on the books, and remember though, a lot of them don't only work in Monroe. When you're a substitute teacher, you don't only sign up for one school district, you sign up for multiple school districts. So it really depends on each individual person, what they're willing to do. Dr. Lehman, how many did we have trained? I know you were working on the PD for that.
We're somewhere in the 40 to 50 substitute trainings. And those are the ones that were specifically reached out to, willing, able, and interested in coming in and participating in facilitating classes via Zoom or being in the buildings, during the COVID environment. So even out of that 200, not everyone was willing to come in.
I'm sorry, did you say 40 would be willing to come in?
Our training was approximately 40 to 50 staff members, yes.
And they would all be willing to come in.
And we're using many of them, when they're available. If they're available, we use them. And since the initial trainings, we've run 4 sessions of training. So anytime we have staff that are new, that are go through the certification process, get their fingerprints, get everything approved by the county, we will offer 1-to-1 training sessions. I mean, we'll do whatever it takes to get 1, 2, 10 additional subs on the books. Whatever it takes, we need the subs to help us open the buildings.
I'm sorry, Ms. Belko, you still have the floor.
That's okay, thank you. My one last question is, I haven't really seen any substitutes on the list for approval. So how are we recruiting? What are we doing? Maybe for the benefit of the public, what is a requirement to be a substitute teacher in Monroe Township?
There are a couple on the agenda for tonight. There seem to be a couple each month. They're usually at the end of the personnel section.
Okay.
So there is, we have 3 certificated substitutes and 1 non-certificated substitute on the agenda for this evening. It requires 60 college credits, and then you would have to apply for your county substitute certification, which also includes a background check and fingerprinting. So if they go to our district website under the HR department, there is specific details about how to become a substitute teacher. And then Dorothy Donkey at the board office is the person who processes that, so you can reach out directly to her.
There you go. I thought we'd get a little plug in.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Dr. Alvick.
Okay, so moving on to personnel. I want to acknowledge the retirement of Mr. Anthony Cowell, maintenance mechanic. Anthony is retiring April 1st after 25 years. So congratulations on your retirement, and I want to thank you for your service to your students. Madam Board President, it is recommended that the board approve attached personnel items A through B, C.
So moved.
Second.
Was that Mr. Tufano with second?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Alvick on the? No?
Yes, Madam President.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Polari.
Dr. Alvick, did you say A through C?
A through BC.
Oh, BC. Okay. Then I do have a question. I do have a comment about the item number. Item number D. As previously, one of the callers, Mr. Poi, suggested, I also strongly suggest that having a council at our meetings is very beneficial to keep things, not to go off the rails from time to time. And they could be even.
I think you're speaking, I'm sorry, I think you're speaking about board action items, not personnel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Not
I apologize. Yet. Stand corrected.
Okay.
Anything else? Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Gorski. if you will, please.
Personnel items A through BC. Ms. Belko,
Yes.
Bierman,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Ms. Siegel,
Yes.
Ms. Skirby,
Yes.
Mr. Tofano,
Yes.
and Madam Board President.
Yes, thank you.
Personnel items A through BC has passed.
Okay, so moving on to board action items. It's recommended that the board approve board action items A through H.
So moved.
Second, anyone?
Second.
I have Mr. Tofano, second again.
Okay.
Yes.
Now I think Mr. Pelori had a question, Madam President.
Yeah, I had
Oh,
a
Lord.
comment, Dr. Alwick, is to include the presence of a council at our board meetings. Even if we go public or in-person meetings, the council can join us on via a teleconference or something. I think that's extremely beneficial to answer some of the questions coming from the board members as well as from the public. That's my suggestion and recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, so is it recommended for the board to take that job description back again?
Can we just amend it instead of taking it back and go through that again?
We can use that, well, to negotiate. I mean, does the whole board want to do that in terms of a motion? Do you want to make a motion, Mr. Polari? To amend
Yes, I
that?
would like, yeah, I can make a motion. That's what Mr. Gagliardi suggests.
Isn't there, I don't have the revised job in front of me. I would imagine it said something in it like attend board meetings as requested or as required. Doesn't it say something like that?
I'm not seeing it.
Let me look at our,
Talks about representation at all.
just had it. Mr. Gorski, do you happen to have that with you, or?
I'm pulling it up now also.
I'm looking for it, but I'm sure, as Mr. Gagliardi expected, there's something in there that says all other duties as requested by either the board or the superintendent.
I don't even see that.
General counsel, okay.
Ms. Arminio?
Yes.
I don't see either of those lines in here. I'm looking at the document right now, and there's also a date of September 2014 on the document.
But that was the last date that it was approved. So that would be revised if the board changed it to this evening.
The last bullet on that says provide advice and counsel on any and additional matters as directed by the Monroe Township Board of Education. So
that's the catch-all.
And also the third bullet from the bottom, represent the school as necessary in all administrative proceedings, may be party to or have an interest. I think that would work as well.
So,
Yes.
Mr.
Mr. Gagliardi, I'm sorry.
So my respectful request of the board is that they consider amending the job description to use the phraseology I just suggested, because administrative proceedings are different from a Board of Education meeting. And I don't necessarily think it's a duty. So it would be to attend meetings of the Monroe Township Board of Education as requested.
Yep.
As requested. That's great.
Ms. Arminio?
Mr. Chiarella.
And I agree. I don't know what our prior contract had in it, but if it had the same wording, we didn't have representation at the board meetings, and we need to have that.
Okay. And it is, since no one, well, we moved it originally, the whole section. So.
Right. So I can walk you through the procedure if you'd like.
Well, do we have to ask the person who moved it to have an addendum, to agree to an addendum?
So either the mover and the seconder can accept what I just said as a friendly amendment, in which case you can just vote on it. If they do not accept it, then a board member needs to move, another board member needs to second a motion to amend, and then that will amend what's already on the table.
I think everyone is in agreement. Is there anyone that disagrees with a friendly amendment? There doesn't seem to be anyone, so may we just do it that way, please?
All right,
Mr.
so then
Gorski?
Mr.
Go ahead.
Gorski's, the minute should reflect that there's a friendly amendment to add the phraseology to attend meetings of the Monroe Township Board of Education as requested to that job description. And now you can proceed to vote on the matters before the board.
Thank you.
Okay.
Noted.
Does anyone else have anything on that matter or any others before we vote? Any questions? No? Mr. Gorski, if you'll proceed, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pelori.
Thank you.
Board action items A through H, including the friendly amendment as represented by Mr. Gagliardi. Ms. Belko,
Yes.
Ms. Bierman,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Ms. Siegel,
Yes.
Ms. Skirby,
Yes, but I would like to abstain on letter E as I was not privy to that board meeting.
so noted. Mr. Tofano,
Yes.
and Madam Board President.
In a friendly way, say yes. Only
Madam Board
Mr.
President.
Gagliardi got it, thanks. Go
Board
ahead.
action items A through H has passed.
Okay, great, thank
And
you.
that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Gorski?
Madam Board President and members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through L be approved by consent roll call.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Tofano. And as part of my report, before we take a roll call, I would just like to identify that there is a donation from the class of 1977, deceased classmates Craig Goletz and Paula Erneck. And I have a letter that I would like to read. It's brief, and I would appreciate your appreciation.
Please.
Dear Sir, Madam, I had been communicating with the principal of the Monroe Township High School, Kevin Higgins, over the summer, and he suggested I send this letter to you. As an introduction, I'm a member of the first graduating class from Monroe Township High School, and it is with a heavy heart I write to you about two classmates, Craig Goletz and Paula Erneck, both who passed away in 2020. Craig lost his life due to complications from COVID-19. Paula lost her battle with cancer. I've enclosed a check for a donation to be made in the high school in their names. The funds represent a collection made from the fellow graduates of the class of 1977. It is an honor to tell you about these two remarkable individuals. Craig and Paula were standouts in many ways. As I remember them, Craig was always ready to help another person in class or in life. He was a creative thinker and a natural leader. He was a problem solver, and we all looked up to him as he was by far a kind person who was very smart and a critical thinker. Paula was a star athlete. She was a member of the basketball and softball teams. She was also always helping her classmates in PE gym class, telling them to give it their all. You could often find her in the stands at a football or basketball game or wrestling match, cheering on her fellow Falcons. Their contributions to society post Monroe Township High School were impressive. Craig became very active in the arts in Jersey City and was president of the Jersey City International TV and Film Festival. He was active in Boys and Girls Clubs of Hudson County and had a successful career as a high-level executive at J.P. Morgan in New York. Paula had a career working for the Mercer County Board of Social Services. I asked the donation amount of $600 be divided between athletic and creative arts departments to be used as the department heads choose to benefit the students in various related programs. And lastly, I would like to thank you for all you do for the students and the families of Monroe Township. As the first graduating class, we came together from the then named elementary schools 1, 2, 3, and 4. Monroe was not as built up then as it is now. It was mostly a farming community. Most of us were first or second generation college graduates in our families. We went on to become productive citizens in life and achieve success in our respective careers. We joined the armed services, became business leaders and educators. We worked on Wall Street, Main Street, and everywhere in between. To name just a few, we had careers in government, financial services, education, and medicine. We became entrepreneurs, and some of us became stewards of family businesses. We lived our lives in Monroe and in many states across the country and abroad. And now we are blessed to be entering retirement, we have grown from sons and daughters to become wives, husbands, parents, and grandparents. Most of all, we are still a close-knit class from 43 years ago who still care about each other and remember our days in Monroe Township High School fondly. What you do every day in making a difference for the next generation to come is appreciated. You are helping them reach their goals and achieve their dreams in life. While they may not always remember to thank you, please accept the thanks and gratitude for what your predecessors did for all of us. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions at the address and phone number below. I wish each of you and your families a healthy, happy holiday season. Please stay safe. Regards, Karen Kane Betts, B-E-T-T-S, class of 1977.
That's very gracious, and we send our condolences to the families of the two classmates. Thank you. Mr. Gorski, you want to continue?
Thank you, Madam. I was going to give a budget update, but I think due to time constraints, I would rather hold that till the next Finance Committee meeting. And that concludes my report. If anybody has any questions before the roll call, I'd be happy to take those at this time.
Ms. Siegel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Arminio. I just want to thank Mr. Gorski for sharing that letter. When I read that, it was so beautiful to see how the class of 1977 and the impact they made, but just such a nice community spirit and to see that happening. So I do condolences to those, but thank you for the donation and thank you to the others that provided donations this month also to our school district.
Yes. Was that Mr. Rutsky? Did we have a motion though in a second first before
yes,
we got to, we did. Okay, Mr. Rutsky, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Gorski, I was actually just going to ask if you had any update on the free breakfast program that we approved at the last meeting.
I know that it was approved by the County Department of Education, Food Service Department. So we are up and running now. We are working on a broadcast to the community, and all systems are go.
Excellent. So have we actually given out any free breakfast yet, or coming soon?
I believe it's coming soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll ask you again next month.
Thank you.
Great.
Anyone else?
Madam President, quick question. Mr. Gorski, I saw that we put a stoppage on all purchase orders, freeze in place. Is that impacting our teachers and students?
Madam?
Yes, Mr. Gorski.
The answer to that is no. There is no impact on teachers and students of any material nature. If you'd allow me to explain, I'd be happy to go into the reasons for the purchase order freeze and what it affects.
No, Gorski, that would suffice. As long as there's no impact to the students and teachers from conducting their business, I'm good with it.
No, it's for non-essential spending, and it's to cover certain budget strains from COVID and other reasons.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
And I beg your pardon, I provided some incorrect information. The free breakfast program has begun on January 11th, and we are distributing breakfasts and free lunches.
And can we have numbers for that by our next meeting?
Yes. Would it please you to put it on the Finance Committee?
Yes, you can start it there, and then we could have it for the full board meeting, please. I think, even though these meetings are going very extensive and time-wise, a little more detail would be very appreciated by the public. Ms. Skirby, did you want to ask?
Yeah, just about the breakfast program. Which schools are we serving the breakfast at?
That information was provided at the last meeting. I don't have that handy, but I can get that to you tomorrow morning.
Is it all of our schools, some of our schools? And when is a broadcast announcement going to go out to the public to let our community know that this is available?
Yes, thank you. We talked about that last meeting. I don't have that information handy, so I'll have to get that to you tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine. I just think it's important for us to share that we have this program up and running. I mean, we were asked to vote on it as, to generate revenue. So if we don't broadcast it out to our community, people don't know about it. So I think that needs to go out as soon as possible if we could do that.
Okay. Anyone else? I don't see any hands. Shall we have a, Ms. Siegel, was that you? No, okay. Mr. Gorski, you want to take a roll call, please?
Board action items A through L. Ms. Belko,
Yes.
Ms. Bierman,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Flory,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Ms. Siegel,
Yes.
Ms. Skirby,
Yes.
Mr. Tufano,
Yes.
and Madam Board President.
Yes.
Board action items A through L has passed. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, does that mean we have a board president's report? I am going to be very brief. Actually, most of the things that I was going to talk about were sort of echoed in all of the diverse public portion speeches. So there's really not much to do except that, you know, in the next 11 months, we'll certainly face many challenges, and not the least of which is this relentless pandemic. And the consequences of the virus really strike at, and everyone has said it, the health and welfare of the entire community, the anxiety and the fears of our students, as we heard, and the frustrations and concerns of our parents and teachers. So we are all really cognizant of that. Hopefully we'll be able to work together and sort of be more consistent with our planning. I know it's very difficult, but the board will work with the administration to provide more instructional rigor, longer face-to-face time with teachers as is possible. And I would like to see some services to our parents. I know we've talked about that before, if we need additional services to help our parents and wellness for them as well. Let's see. I would also like to, you've talked about extended school day. We have safety and costs involved, and we recognize the impact with students emotionally and educationally. And I honor the parents. I did mention I was going to talk about presentations. We have very long business meetings, as you can see, and I am delighted that the public has stuck with us and participated. I think that's what these meetings, while we have to perform our duties as board members for business, I am very grateful for the eyes and ears of our public participants. So having said that, I think I'd like the board to consider, when we do have presentations, which are very important, Mr. Rutsky, I appreciate your position. I think if we can sometimes, instead of having more than one presentation at a meeting, if we can designate a special meeting to have several presentations so the students can either perform, we can have training presentations, and we won't, I mean, as it is, it's nearly 10 o'clock. I would like to see an additional meeting. Yeah, Mr. Gorski, that was true. We're all very tired. But, you know, these things must happen, so I'm wondering if periodically we can have a special meeting every 6 weeks. I had talked to Dr. Alvick about it, or when necessary. We certainly want to recognize our students, our teachers, and if we need training. So just think about that. It's just part of the report I was going to make. And that concludes my report. Is there any other board business that someone would like to speak to? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Rutsky.
Okay. Didn't know if you were going to see me up here.
I almost didn't see you. No.
All right. If I may take a couple minutes, go over a couple of things. And the first one I wanted to address was just something that came up tonight. And I just think we need to shed some light on and respect the policy of, you know, remote meetings and no cell phones. So while it's being called out, and okay, let's remember we're adults. We took ethics. We signed off on it. Look around your screen. Everybody's a headshot. You can't see people's hands. They're looking down. We're looking around. People can clearly be playing with their phones if that's what they choose to do. I'd like to think again that ethically we all know better, and that's not what we're doing. So I just wanted to just be clear. You can't throw accusations out there when everybody's hands are down here. So, and everybody's looking around and looking down, where you could be taking notes or you could be texting somebody. But let's be ethically responsible and let's not text people during the meetings. Okay. That was number one. Number two, if you may. So I wanted to just take a brief moment and just address some chatter I've heard on social media. I tend to not give it too much credence, but there's been some commentary. There's been some support. There's been some misunderstanding maybe about the fact that I, as the Jamesburg representative, who have sat on 2 committees in the 5 years that I've served on this board as the Jamesburg rep. This year, with all due respect, I asked to be on only 1, not 2 committees, because it's going to be other busy commitments with the Jamesburg School District. We have a new superintendent, we have a new BA, and we will be going into teacher negotiations. So I asked to be on 1 committee. Madam President and the Vice President chose to put me on no committees. So be it. My point to all of that is to my Jamesburg students, to my Jamesburg families, my residents, I promise you all, I will stay informed on all the topics, and I promise you all I will stay involved in all the conversations. And so I wanted to just put that out there and lay that to rest on my behalf. Other than that, my third thing, which again, for time, I don't think I'll go into it, but it's up to you, Madam President. I have all the numbers for the last 4 years for the Jamesburg tuition to the Monroe High School. I know we have new board members that may not have gotten the notes and may not be up to speed on how that program's been working and the progress we've been making. Respectfully, in February, we should get the audited numbers for both the number of students we're sending as well as the actual high school tuition that gets factored in. So in light of time, I just wanted to let you know I have all those numbers. I checked the notes and I shared all those numbers in November during other board business. Clearly, that's not enough, and there's still a lot of banter out there that people are concerned, have questions, and what have you. I stand ready to address that. If you want me to do it now, I'll do it now. But if you want to wait till February when we have another year of information, I'll do that in February.
I think that would be best, Mr. Rutsky, and also I think that we can certainly have a discussion in the Finance Committee meeting, and perhaps if we have to change, we can't have a quorum, but we can certainly have maybe one of the members not come in, and if you want to present that to the Finance Committee, but you could certainly present it at the next meeting as well. Again, you still have a voice. Everyone has a voice. And in the committee meetings, they're just recommendations from, for the most part, from the administration and discussion with the other board members. So no real action is being taken, and we certainly appreciate your input. So I think we'll talk then. I'll speak to Mr. Chiarella, who is the chair, and we'll make sure that we can go through that, in your presence. Okay, respectfully. And let me say that because I also have heard chatter, and I would like to be very clear that there is, and I did sort of had a little something prepared because I didn't want it to come out improperly. So I would just like to say that there's no greater exercise of our democracy than to educate all children in Jamesburg, in Monroe, and in the state of New Jersey. Make no mistake, all resident children are welcome in this district. The Board of Education makes no distinction between children in our school system, whether they are in different sections of Monroe or from Jamesburg. All are valued as our students, and all are equal. So I hope that, that all of our neighbors in Jamesburg know that they are part of our family, and we will hopefully move on, respectfully. Mr. Palori.
I'll just answer that real
Oh,
quick,
yes,
Mr. Bond. I'll say
please.
thank you for your comments. I think the actions of some people, whether on this board or out in the public and or on other representations, might speak differently. So actions speak louder than words. I appreciate what you said, but we'll still continue to try to smooth this out, so to speak, and make
Okay.
sure all the proper information is out there.
Well,
And we will continue to remind everybody that we do this for the students and the children,
right.
and we've done it for 41 years.
Okay. And certainly if there are issues, like you mentioned, you have numbers and financial information, that is totally different than the welcoming of our students. There are two different issues, and I think all of our students are well loved and well appreciated. I'm sorry, Mr. Rutsky, I just want to make sure before I move on. You're good. Thank you. Mr. Pelori.
Madam President, members of the Board of Education and the public, I do have a few things that I would like to go over.
Okay.
Not to start off on a positive note or not so positive note, but let me start on the positive note. Number one is the kids of Monroe Township, and especially the high school kids, raised quite a bit of money. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know the check that we gave Senior Center and also to the Rice, New Jersey program during the holidays. And I believe somewhere around 12 tons worth of food. Kudos to all the kids and everybody else who participated on that. The second one is that there's an international geography B competition by the International Elementary and Middle School National Championships. The 7th grade champion for that was somebody from San Jose, and the 6th grade champion was from Monroe Township, somebody who is within our own community. His name is Shubham Kumar Gupta. I believe both the superintendent and the school principal were notified of that. It would be good if we can recognize folks who, bring merit and glory to Monroe Township in our discussions. The other one that I have is Nivrithi Agram, who participated in a model UN for the Mid-Atlantic District, and they went through a lot of school districts participated, and she was one of the she was the general secretary chosen to represent the UN. Again, a student from our high school from Monroe Township. So those are all great accomplishments from our students that sometimes just like teachers and students don't get recognition. So I want to bring it up. Similar to Mr. Rutsky's comments, people call me and ask me the same question. Andy, is it true that you don't want to be on any of the committees? You didn't want to be bothered about these things. I'm not sure who's putting that kind of an information out there, but I just want to read that every time we sign up for this job and take a pledge, we say that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform our duties, okay? I will always continue to do that even when I'm ignored by certain section of this board. Also, I don't know, Paul, you said that you only gave one. I gave every single priority that I have. This is not about me. It's 34 years of experience in engineering. You got 25 years of experience in finance. We were put on the wayside. Our services are not needed, apparently. But that's fine. But at the same time, these meetings are going to go longer because we will ask questions, because that's what people have asked us to sign up for. That's what I signed up for. I'll continue to ask questions until I'm clear that every decision this board makes is in the best interest of this district and the students and the parents. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Chiarella.
Thank you, Ms. Arminio. I appreciate it. So, yeah, and the street goes both ways. So to my fellow board members who have who are spending a lot of time teaching the rest of us about civility and how to treat everyone properly, I hope that you recognize that when you see things on the internet posted by the surrogates of many of you that call the board president a racist because of her, just by following her prerogative, which is to choose which committees people sit on, that's wrong too. It's disgusting. Okay, so let's just get that straight as far as calling the kettle black and casting aspersions, because I was outraged by it myself. Last year, I didn't have any committee chairmanship. Did you know that? Did anybody post about that all over the internet and fight about that? But for some reason, the last regime didn't think that I was worth it with all of my experience. So I just want to say that, before we go blowing everything up and and allowing our surrogates to be hyperbolic, that we first think about what we're doing and think about doing this for the right reasons, which are for the kids. Let's get our kids back in school. Let's get our kids back in school in a safe way. Let's focus on that and stop the politics and the hyperbolic explosions. Thank you.
Madam President, I can respond to that, but we can go on all day, but that's not the intent of this. Just the fact that somebody thinks they have surrogates who do go to the website makes me wonder if that's how these people function on the Facebook, because I don't have any surrogates that I can tell and go ask them to go and do this. That's the absolute nonsense. Absolutely, we need to focus on kids. Absolutely, we need to get the board business done. And I think even the previous 2 years that I've been on the board, everybody was given an opportunity, somebody who's lined up with somebody experienced. But I'll ask a simple question. There is you guys have decided to take out the Education Advocacy Committee. That's fine by me. Let me ask you a question. Who's tracking all the grants that are being put out by the government, whether it's federal or state government? Do we know what's going on with do you know that there's a bill in the assembly right now that's discussing the impact fees? Who's tracking that?
Well, Mr.
Case made. Thank you.
I beg your pardon. Okay. Well, we will have that answer. We pay a grant person. We have someone in our district who is paid to do just that. If members of the Board of Education are familiar or come across other things, then I would hope that without any personal situation, that they would share it with the board. I am not sure that anyone would withhold that. I mean, that would certainly be a personal problem. If someone was withholding because they are upset with the procedures. But let me just say that, there are times when we have a status quo, and there are times when we maintain customs and traditions and precedents. But every year, the president of the board is charged with assembling a committee. And that's what I did as my prerogative. And the fact that it's a yearly action itself implies change. And I am hoping that the people we put on the board who were discredited, it seems to me, on some social media, that's not fair to them either, because people have been, I think we have skill and we have new ideas, and we're going to go with that. But let me leave it at I am taking full responsibility for the choices. It was my prerogative as president. I am sorry if it's disappointed people, and I hope to move on from that. We have people who have the ability and the business acumen to preside over a meeting. And once again, this is about really listening to recommendations for the most part from the administration, and also discussing things. But the action, Mr. Polari, you will always be involved in the actions of the board as a full board. So
I appreciate.
I think that should be enough of the discussion, unless you have a pertinent response.
No, thank you very much for saying that. On all sides, I just don't want anybody to think. I think everybody was chosen by the people of Monroe to serve in this capacity. So for anybody to say that she doesn't belong in a committee or he doesn't belong in a committee, I don't agree with that either. So completely, that's the deal of it. Right. All I'm saying is that certain of us have experience in certain areas that can be taken advantage of. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we hope that everybody freely gives of their experience and their ability.
Yeah, I already told you I'm not going to charge you for that.
Well, no one else is either, and nobody is getting paid. That's for sure. Yeah. So let's move on. Anyone else? I think then we have another public forum.
Ms. Siegel has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Rupa.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to update the community. I finished my Governance 3 training. That's a mandatory training for third-year board members. So that was just completed. And one of the core objectives, which I thought was really was very appropriate for this time and age during the pandemic was embracing technology in education. So with that being said, I want to congratulate all our students. They are embracing technology. I mean, we pushed them to this level and it's happened because it just has to happen at this point. But it's wonderful to see, as Dr. Lehman shared, about all the high school clubs, how they're still doing what they're supposed to do, but they've really embraced technology. So I do want to congratulate all the kids. I want to give them big kudos because it's hard. The virtual learning, it's all new, but they've really embraced it and seeing how they're succeeding and make things work. So I just want to congratulate all the students.
That's great. Thank you. Anyone else, because we will move on to public forum. Mr. Gorski, would you like to read the letter that we received?
Thank you, Madam Board President. For the first time ever, we received an electronic submission of a comment/question. And the sender's name is a Mr. Daniel Stedman. And Mr. Stedman writes the following. What is Monroe really doing with the staffing issues? Children need more than just interaction through the screen. What community outreach programs are you doing for families? What is the realistic date of going back to school? Thanks, Dan Stedman.
Okay, I will read the letter that I received and that I forwarded to Dr. Alvick. You did get that, right, Dr. Alvick? And to Mr. Gorski. Okay.
Yes, just before the meeting, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Yes, that came in today at 3:35 p.m. Christy Uri, if I'm saying her name right, U-R-Y, and she said, I am working tonight, so cannot call in. Please read the below statement. Thanks. This is a little extensive, so please bear with me. I am a registered nurse that has been working in Manalapan schools since September. We have had almost no school transmission there. We have even managed to get the lower grades back for 5 half days using gyms and cafeteria. It can 100% be done safely, but we cannot know unless our administrators really try. And when I say try, I mean think outside the box. When the high school finally opened in December, our district had decided to enhance, and I believe she's talking about her own district where she works, enhance the Department of Health rules instead of just following them. They treated every child with symptoms as positive, therefore focusing on entire households to be out of school for 10 to 14 days. Even with, and perhaps I'm wrong. I'm not sure. Let me start again. It could be our district. When the high school finally opened in December, our district had decided to enhance the Department of Health rules instead of just following them. They treated every child with symptoms as positive, therefore forcing an entire household to be out of school for 10 to 24 days, even with negative COVID tests. This caused our quarantine numbers to falsely inflate because a person with cold symptoms who had been out for 2 days and then returned with a negative test was instead kept out for 10 days as if they were positive. I am all for safety, but I think we can leave it to the New Jersey Department of Health to make those choices. If you want to claim staff quarantine issues as a reason not to open, at least acknowledge that it's partially because you made your own quarantine rules. It seemed the majority of Monroe families want virtual school, and that the smaller faction of us who want in-person school are not being advocated for or heard. It seems no one is fighting for the student who wants to attend school. Manalapan schools are open because their superintendent believes kids belong in school and he fights for it. The American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as Dr. Fauci, have come out in favor of in-person school. The lack of mental and emotional development outweighs the long risk of getting seriously sick. I can understand why, if the medical professionals say we should be open for our school's mental health. I can't understand why, if the medical professionals say we should be open for our children's mental health, that the non-medical administration gets to decide to keep us closed. I applaud our teachers who are doing double work. I wish Monroe would have broken down learners and teachers into virtual academy and in person. This is what Manalapan did. If you match up virtual students with staff who need or want to work from home, it alleviates many staffing issues. I know this would take a lot of logistical work, but I truly think our kids are worth it. I also want to applaud Monroe for keeping sports going. While many may see it as frivolous, school sports are an integral part of many students' lives, and I am happy that they are getting to have these moments as well as maintain their physical health. Number one, these are her questions. Why are you not looking into districts that are making it work? I would love to be asked to come in and answer questions about how it's working in Manalapan. Number two, why can we not hold junior PSAT next week? If the building can be open for sports, it should be open for a few hours for this important educational testing day. Number three, I have heard that many high school hybrid students had only 1 to 2 kids in the class when they finally got to attend school. Have you looked at the numbers to bring all the high school hybrid kids together for the next marking period instead of cohorts? This could again help alleviate staffing issues. Number four, to the board members, at this time I do not feel the desires of my children to attend school are being represented. When closure decisions are made, is the board consulted? How many of you actually believe we should be open? I wish the board should fight for all of its students and fight for them to have a choice of school, in school or virtual, not just sit by and have virtual school forced on us. And five, do you think it's okay that private school students of New Jersey who have been in school 5 full days since September will compete against Monroe kids for college entrances and scholarships? And do you really think adding a mandatory afternoon session will bridge this divide? To me, it's an extra hour of screen time, and I don't want it for my kids. Please do whatever it takes to open our schools and let our children learn with their peers. I am happy to help in any way to make this happen. Thank you, Christy Uri. Mr. Feldman, is there anyone else?
Yes, as of now, we have 5, Madam Board President.
Okay, please begin.
Mr. Fabiano, if you could please state your name and address and just let us know if you need video. Thank you.
Okay. Brian Fabiano, 19 Patricia Place. Couple of quick comments. I do appreciate you taking the letters in from the public that can't be here, but I think they have to stand by the same rules that we have for putting out their address. So that information should be provided when you read their information, number one. Number two, I think it should also be limited to 4 minutes. So if it's a lengthy letter, they still have to, be in the same 4 minutes that we're given.
Correct.
A couple of things here. We started off this new board talking about unity and working together, and we listened to a lot of people come on tonight with frustrations about really what they want in afternoons courses, and what they see as not working and working. And I think it's just a slap in the face of these people that spent their time sitting on these calls, to hear the bickering of board members back and forth again about me. I mean, it's clear I didn't get picked for a community, for a committee. I'm upset about it. I was on social media. I need to explain, pity me. I mean, come on. These kids are coming and talking about how they want their education. You're crying because you didn't get picked for a committee. How about you spend more time on that same social media, hearing the outcries of the parents and the students in the community that don't think this is working, and actually come up with some actual actionable items. So that's my comment there. In terms of getting more substitutes, have we thought about incentive pay? In healthcare, we call it crisis pay, where you incent more, put more money in the pot to attract talent. It works in healthcare. Would it work for, getting more substitutes or, people into the district? There's a lot of talk about vaccine. Well, vaccine being the saving grace. Well, have we ever thought about how many teachers are actually going to want to get the vaccine? I don't think that we're going to be able to force teachers to get the vaccine. There's nothing mandated in the state that even says front line healthcare workers have to get the vaccine. So have we thought about how many teachers might actually not want the vaccine? The last thing I wanted to talk about here, This board talked a lot about transparency and the public, having more transparency into our education system moving forward. We get a lot of information through the Oprah request process. I have major concerns about the validity of the data that's provided through the Oprah request process in this town, the timeliness of the responses to those Oprah requests, the accuracy that's included in those requests, and I'd have major concern about the administrator that administers those requests, feeding information to certain people in the public. This is all, you can all discover this through the Oprah request. And I think that if we're going to have somebody administering the Oprah process, we need to do better, and to not have valid data, timeliness of data, accuracy of the data. We're really not getting transparency. So I would like to ask this board to investigate the Oprah process, how it is being worked today. Do we have the option to appoint a new administrator to oversee the Oprah process and get some accountability? I know I'm not the only one. A lot of people have spoken about it, and I've seen multiple requests that don't line up coming out of our Oprah process. And I would really ask this board, if you're all about transparency and you want to have this town be able to have transparency, then we need to look into how these Oprah requests are being administered.
Thank you. Mr. Feldman?
Yes, Madam Board President, we have Ms. Severino.
Okay.
Good evening, Betty Sabarito, 2 Barrymore Drive. I just wanted to say, Madam President, I commend you for always being a class act and professional and speaking to people with respect. And I just wanted to say, and I've said this before, Mr. Pelori, your treatment of Madam President is completely unacceptable. As a female, the way you talk down to her 20 years ago was not acceptable. Today, it's not acceptable. And I really think you need to take a look maybe a little bit at yourself instead of calling other people out. That's all I had to say.
Mr. Feldman?
Madam Board President, we have Mr. Ryan.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rybeck?
Oh, I couldn't make out what he said. So
I couldn't either. Go ahead, Mr. Rybeck. Hi.
Steve Ryback, 23 Riviera Drive. First, before I bring up my comment, I just want to address a comment made by a member of the public, Ram. I got my numbers when I mentioned before talking about the Claremont School. Got it actually from the BG&T committee meeting in January, as well as I went online and got some information. And I think, Madam President, you understand my goal is just to make sure that whatever we come up with, it'll fit the numbers of kids that we need here in Monroe comfortably. We don't want to open a school being, at its limit or overcrowded. I do want to address the comments about the committees. I appreciate what you said, Madam President, and I certainly Mr. Pelori and Mr. Rutsky. But I just want to bring out a few things. You're a board of committees, and a lot of the groundwork is done at the committee level. And part of that makes the board meeting run a little more effectively. Now, Mr. Pelori is an engineer. I'm not saying that he or Mr. Rutsky have to be the chair of the committee, but they both have a certain level of expertise that nobody else on the board has. Mr. Pelori is an engineer, and having him on BG&T, especially when we might be considering a referendum, is invaluable to this Board of Education and this community. Mr. Rutsky is a financial planner, advisor for 25 years. Not having him assigned, forget about being chair, just assigned to the Finance Committee. And is to me not maximizing the use of the skills of our board members. Being an alternate is nothing more than serving as a substitute. And I think that we have to consider what we did to Mr. Rutsky is I don't know how is in my way disrespectful to not only the students of Jamesburg who he represents, but to the town of Jamesburg. We always considered Jamesburg students, our Monroe students. They paid tuition, but they were also ordered to attend Monroe schools by the courts. It's mandatory. and not assigning Paul to the committee that he really fits in with his expertise and was the one he requested, I think was a mistake. I think, what does it say, as I said, to those students, and what does it say to Jamesburg? Not too late to correct it, and I hope we can correct this and move on and deal with the issues of important that are to the town, and allow our the expertise of our board members to really serve the town effectively. Thank you.
Mr. Feldman?
Madam Board President, we have Mrs.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear that.
I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
We have Miss Aziz.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Aziz, 3 Lancelot Drive. There's a possibility I might have misspoken at the first public forum, and if that's the case, I want to clarify. The BrewTab product creates hypochlorous acid, not hydrochloric acid. The equipment proposed by Mr. Tefano also produces hypochlorous acid. It's the same exact disinfectant, but the hypochlorous acid produced with the BrewTab product has a higher level of quality assurance. On the issue of whether to use BrewTab or the equipment, I will side with the expert. In this case, Dr. Richard Lynch recommended the BrewTab product. He holds a doctorate in public health with a minor in epidemiology, a master of science in industrial hygiene. He is certified in the comprehensive practice of industrial hygiene by the American Board of Industrial Hygiene. When it comes to the safety of my children, I will trust Dr. Lynch, and he is against the purchase of the equipment that Mr. Tefano recommends. I also have a question for our board president. In the interest of transparency, I was hoping that Ms. Arminio could explain her thought process and rationale for excluding a professional engineer and board member, Andy Pelori, from the Building, Grounds, and Transportation Committee. He has over 30 years of experience in engineering and was a huge asset to this committee. What is the rationale for excluding Paul Rutsky from the Finance Committee? Paul Rutsky is the only board member who has professional experience in finance and has worked as a financial advisor for an investment bank for 25 years. He is a huge asset to the Monroe taxpayers who need his professional oversight on our Finance Committee. Additionally, as a graduate of Jamesburg Public Schools and Monroe Township High School, I object to the complete exclusion of the Jamesburg rep from all committees. It sends a bad message to the Jamesburg students at our high school that their rep is excluded from all committees, and actions speak louder than words. This does not seem like a collaborative and inclusive school board in which committee assignments are based on board members' qualifications and experience. If Ms. Arminio can explain her thought process regarding committee assignments, I would really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Aziz. I believe I already have. As I mentioned, it's a yearly process that we put committees in. We've had experience on the boards, there's no question. I would like to have new and innovative ideas. All of our board members can participate in our final decision making, and they can certainly add to anything that comes out of the committees. So it is a prerogative of the president in every year to place committees. And as I mentioned, there have been there's been language in public forums that really disrespect new board members. They are also equally as elected as our current board members and our veteran board members. And I think that getting some diversity on the board, on the committees, is also as important as respecting our veteran board members as well. Anything else? Has Ms. Aziz left us, Mr. Feldman?
She's unmuted now.
Okay. Does she have any more time, Mr. Gorski?
I had a little less than a minute.
Yeah, I was
Go right
not.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
ahead,
I wasn't referring to any of the new board members. I just specifically wanted to know why Mr. Pelori was excluded from BG&T and why Mr. Rutsky was excluded from finance. That was the extent of my question. That's
okay.
it.
I believe I answered it. Thank you. Mr. Feldman?
Madam Board President, we have Miss Ferroni.
Okay.
Ms. Ferrone, are you up? Okay, seeing that she's not there at the moment, we will go to Mr. Malam. Mr. Malam, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Mr. Malam?
Okay, I will go back to him as well. We have Mr. DiPiero.
Okay. Mr. DePiero?
Good evening. I just wanted to make a few comments. The superintendent was requesting information on where the vaccine is going to be at the township. It will be at the senior center is the location. Our governor posted it on the state website. We posted it, the county posted it. The problem is getting the vaccine for our residents. So we have the location. We're just working on getting the vaccine. As we all know, the parameters that the governor put in for phase 1 and phase 2. So the teachers are not part of the first responders as of yet, but that's the location. So as Mr. Rutsky said before, how are we going to get this for our teachers? And his comments about getting it for the teachers, it cannot be given to the teachers as per the governor right now, because he's not considering teachers being first responders when they are on the front line, just like everybody else that are getting this vaccine. Also, I'm a graduate from 1979 in Monroe, and I did know some of the students that passed in the 77 class, because back when we were in high school in Monroe, that was considered a junior high. It was 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And a lot's changed over the years in Monroe as far as the growth goes. I'm not sure if you guys are keeping your eyes on numbers, on what's up and coming in the community. I know some people are on the board and they understand, but I never hear a report on how many new students are coming into our community or projections. Projections is a big thing that needs to be done. Our past mayor would always say it would take 10 years for the community to do a build out of one large development. We have many large developments coming in our town, and I think you guys really need to stay focused on that. Mr. Tague used to have reports, and he used to keep his number on that as long as with Mr. Gorski. And the only other comment is some of the residents are calling in, supporting or complaining about certain board members. Madam President, you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. And as you said, it's your decision. And I sit on the council, and I don't get chosen for all the knowledge that I have. And that's the decision that the president or the mayor of our committees make. So you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. And I would look at the track record, especially at the finance. I'm going to be very to the point on this. I'm a little disappointed on the amount of money that Jamesburg owes Monroe. And it'd be very interesting to see how it grew from 600,000 to 1.5 million. And that being on the finance committee is not a good record. It's a failure. So you really need to look at the track records. And just because you hold a license doesn't mean that you're good at your job. And any profession that holds a license, there's good workers and there's not so good workers. So it's your decision to put who you feel will be beneficial to the taxpayers, to our students, and also to our parents. It's very important that we get everyone's input. Thank you.
Mr. Feldman, anyone else? Mr. Rutsky, we'll save that for a minute.
Yes, we do, Madam Board President.
Go
We
ahead.
have Mr. Aso.
Tim Esso, 2 Allison Court. I do not wish to be on camera. Real quick, on a personal note, I want to just congratulate my beautiful wife, Linda Esser, who is Teacher of the Year this year at Oak Tree, as well as all the wonderful teachers we have in our school district who earned that honor this year. With that said, I just want to thank the board for listening to the many members of the public that asked to have a new chair of the Finance Committee. I'm glad we are seeing change that so many advocated for. Also, I'm asking the board, and this was said by another member of the public who just spoke, I'm personally asking the board to consider changing the custodian of records. There have been so many community members who have raised concerns about how public records are being handled, and now this board is tasked with making sure that the Open Public Records Law is being followed accordingly, because so many feel it is not. I, along with the many other community members, hope this board will investigate those issues that have been raised. With that being said as well, Madam President, I told you in the last meeting, you conduct yourself with nothing but dignity and pride and honor to this community. And the entire board should look at you as setting the bar, because you do set the bar. And I heard the meeting where Mr. Pelori completely was disrespectful to women. It's terrible. It's an embarrassment. I had my daughter listening to this meeting tonight because she's interested in politics. My daughter, who's a junior in high school, had to hear this. It's a shame. And you should be embarrassed yourself, Mr. Pelori, for the
Madam
way
President, you cannot let people, whether I was disrespectful to
Point
you
of
or not.
order. Point of
Point of
order.
order, yeah. Yes.
Of order.
Mr. Pelori, this is a public forum and we cannot discriminate against someone for speaking based on their content.
Understood, Madam Chair. Understood.
Point of order. I have the floor.
Yes, Mr. SL, please continue.
Madam President, you're doing a wonderful job. There's a reason why 13,000 people came out and voted this year. They came out and voted for change because it's clear some members of the old board weren't doing their job. Now we put the politics aside and let's focus on our children, our teachers, our administrators, so we can all get through this together. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm not sure at this point. Mr. Feldman, is there anyone else in the public?
I still have two members.
Yeah, let's get the public heard, please.
Michelle, just a quick thing. My battery is going to go off. My batteries, I think, in the headset is going to go off because it's 3.5 hours. Are you okay to take a 5-minute break to charge, or you just want to continue?
Well, can you switch to something else? Because we only have, what, 2 more people, Mr. Feldman, or 3? I'd like to get the public to.
I have 2 at the moment.
Can we, Mr. Pelori, can you hang in there?
Yeah,
two,
if you see me take my headset off, that means battery is gone. If
okay.
not, then I go back.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Board President, we have Mr. Malam.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Malam.
Hi, thank you. I have a comment about 2 things. One is for committees.
Go ahead.
When in the last 2 years I've been observing in the board how you choose committees, the last 2 presidents has been explained that choosing a committee is purely president's discretion. There is no questions asked and no explanation is needed. That's what the answer I got. So I want to remind the whole township of Monroe to have that one in mind. The second thing, the mishandling of Oprah records. There are numerous times I raised the Oprah requests are being mishandled or delayed or wantedly they've been put on hold indefinitely. And I showed my displeasure in the public forum as well previously. So I request this board to take a look on how it is being handled and put it in a safe hands or a right hands. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else, Mr. Feldman? Thank you, Mr. Malam.
Yes, Madam Board President, we have 2 more.
Okay.
We have Ms. Faroni.
Okay. Ms. Faroni?
Okay. Seems like she's not there at the moment. We have one more. It's Miss, and forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, Miss Bisa Gano.
Yes?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you pronounce your name, please, and give us your address?
Grace Bizignano, 4
Bizignano.
Birchwood Road.
Okay.
Okay. Let me start by saying that on behalf of all Jamesburg residents, including myself, Mr. Rutsky has done a great amount for both Jamesburg and Monroe districts, so I wanted to show my full support for him. With that being said, it's disappointing to hear that he was not selected for the financial committee. I would also like to bring up some things that were said online in regards to Jamesburg students not being welcomed in school because of the quote type of diversity they bring. I am glad that you spoke on that, Madam President, because if that was the case, it would be very upsetting to hear. As a former Jamesburg student, I can also tell you how much Jamesburg students have brought to Monroe Township. For one, some of Monroe's greatest athletes are former Jamesburg students. So if anybody would like to comment on that, that would be great.
Well, I think it was said that there's, if there's a discussion about financial considerations and monies and funds, there's a big difference between that and the love of our students and the acceptance and welcoming of all students in Monroe. So I think we've answered that question. Do you have another question?
No, just a comment. You have
Go
a
ahead.
point, but I just wanted to put it into perspective
Thank you.
for everybody. So, that's why I brought up.
Thank you. And that's it's well spoken, well taken, and we respect all of our students.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure, Mr. Gagliardi, do we have comment after the public portion? I'm not sure that, I will open it because in the past it might have been done, but I want to make sure that we are, it would be my prerogative to open to the board for comment.
And it's your prerogative as to whether there's nothing in the law that requires another round of public comment from the board in response to the public comment from the public.
Right.
It's entirely
Right.
within your discretion.
Okay, so given that it's 10:38, and I do believe, I always want to hear from our board members as well as the public. How about we agree that 10:45 will be a cutoff for this discussion? Would that be acceptable? Okay, so let's start with Mr. Rutsky because
This will take no more than 30 seconds, I promise. So I just have to defend myself. But I wanted to first thank Charlie DePiero because he finally spoke the truth on something, and he's proof of it. You can have titles and you can have licenses and you can still be bad at your job. So thank you for bringing that to everybody's attention. As far as the finances are concerned, what was a $2 million deficit when I came on as the representative, and that's not to do with me, it's just how the Jamesburg schedule has worked. For those paying attention, it peaked at $2 million of indebtedness. It is now down to 1.5 million of indebtedness. Soon that will be under $1 million of indebtedness. So we are working in the right direction. While supporting our Jamesburg curriculum and our facilities and our teacher contracts, we have always, in the last 5 years, paid more than what the actual tuition is for the actual number of students we're sending. And again, it's down from 2 million. And again, I'm using round numbers, so please don't crack on me because it's not exact, but from 2 million to 1.5 million, headed to under 1 million. So I just wanted to clear that up and thank Charlie for his comments.
Okay.
I'm done.
Mr. Pelori and then Mr. Tufano, can we please keep our comments to substantive facts and not personal issues?
Madam President, actually, I may not be able to even last 30 seconds because I got to go back on that again. I just want to let you know that, Michelle, as a friend, I have utmost respect for you. We may agree to disagree. We may have a tempers flared. I just want you to know the same two people come up time and time again, complain that I don't respect you. I have utmost respect for you, but we agree to disagree on things, and things may go a little heated up from time to time. I don't want anybody to be misconstruing that as lack of respect. I respect everybody. You have the highest number of votes. Irrespective of that, you conduct very well yourself. And I know you bring a lot of value to the board, and I respect it very much. And I hope you do the same for me. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Tufano. Again, please make it substantive.
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Rutsky, because he made a comment earlier about a board member maybe making a comment on something that was posted on Facebook today. Maybe I misunderstood him, and I apologize if I did. But was there a accusation that a board member or somebody that has to do with the school made an implication that ethnicity has to do with something with the decision of not having him on the finance committee, that we didn't respect diversity in our district? I wanted to just clear that up for the public.
That's not anything that I read about or was speaking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so what have, well, I'm not on social media, so let's clear that up. As far as anyone knows on the board, there was no mention of anything derogatory about Monroe, about Jamesburg students, correct?
Correct.
Okay, how about we finish?
I have-
Okay, we have 3 minutes. Mr. Chiarella.
I should have said this during other board business, but I wanted to congratulate Steve Delina on becoming our mayor tonight. So, that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just make a comment, Michelle?
Yes, you have.
I wish as a board, we would spend more time talking about the real issues in our school district, how to open our schools, how to help our kids, social, emotional issues going on, how to get our special needs kids back in, how to deal with the lack of fulfilling the curriculum through remote learning, only half days. Those are the real issues that we need to deal with here. And we've spent so much time tonight, wasted so much time talking about who's on what committee. We are a board of the whole. Read the bylaws, see what powers we have as a board of the whole. That's where we deliberate. That's where we make policy. That's where we make changes. Changes aren't made in committees. It's just really frustrating as a board member to sit here tonight when we have so much going on in our district that we should be taking the time to figure out those issues instead of who's on what committee. It's very disappointing. And I apologize to all the public that has to sit through this, that are here trying to figure out how they're going to help their kids excel.
Okay, I think that'll do it for comments. We are going to move into closed session. That is our next on the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes.
Closed session. Mr. Gorski, do you want me to read it or do you want me to?
It's up to you. I'll be happy to read it if you wish.
I think I need to read it as a presiding officer. Please be advised that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21 to discuss the following subjects. Harassment, intimidation, and bullying. I believe these are student matters. And following the closed section, action may be taken. I do believe there may be some action taken tonight, so the public is aware. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Okay, let's move it first.
Moved.
And who seconded? Mr. Okay, Ken and Ms. Belko. Dr. Alva, can we tell the public how long we perceive to be in the meeting?
I think about 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, how about we will, I think maybe everybody needs a break. Can we go in, can we meet in maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes? What do we need? 5? Mr. Pelori says 5. Everybody in agreement? Aye?
Aye.
Yes? Okay, anybody not to do it? Okay, in 5 minutes, so that means it happens to be 10:45. At 10:50, we will reconvene in closed session, and then we will get back to the public in about 10 to 15 minutes.
Michelle, I just have a quick question. Do we exit out of this completely?
Yes.
Okay.
We completely exit out. Dr. Alvick, make sure that you've sent us or me the email to get into the closed session.
It was sent as a calendar invite yesterday.
Okay, I think I did have that one. All right.
I think you did accept it, so you should have it in your calendar.
Okay, you would think, huh?
If not, text me and I'll send it to you again.
All right, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Gagliardi, are you going to be with us for
I
the end?
will,
or-
I will meet you in
Thank
the executive session. Yes, Madam
Okay,
President.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are back in session. The time is 11:19, and Dr. Alvick, would you like to speak?
Yes, I have a resolution. So it's recommended that the Board of Education, 1, affirm the superintendent's initial determination regarding the harassment, intimidation, and bullying complaints set forth below, and 2, direct the superintendent to provide notice to the board's aforementioned decision to the parents of all involved students from the January 4, 2021 board meeting. The HIB numbers are 220294, 220392, and 220413.
I have a motion.
So moved. Andy Pecori.
Anyone else? Second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Tufano. There's really no discussion. Do we need a vote? Yeah,
Yes, yes.
please do so.
Ms. Belko,
Yes.
Ms. Bierman. Ms. Bierman,
She said yes, yeah.
she did. I didn't hear anything.
Yep.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Ms. Siegel,
Yes.
Ms. Skirby,
Yes.
and Madam Board President.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, I think that does it for a long evening, well spent with friends. Our next board meeting is February 17th, 2021. The next scheduled board meeting and at the Monroe Township, well, it will be virtual. It says on the agenda at the high school, but it will be a virtual meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay, we got
Third.
many. All right, I thank everyone for their tolerance, and I wish you, Mr.
I beg your pardon. Who was the first and second on that? I couldn't hear.
Everyone.
Everyone.
Mrs. Belko,
Katie Belko, move the motion for second.
pick one. They all did.
Yeah, we all did.
I heard Mr. Tufano, is that correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
So that worked.
Oh,
Hey,
Was
Michelle,
me.
a quick question.
was Adam.
If you're not one of the 5 committee members, and because the meetings are happening virtual, if you join, that becomes a quorum, correct?
Right, you can't.
So we can't join. Okay.
We'll have a discussion about alternates and things like that.
But that's okay. No, I just want to know procedurally. And
Yeah,
if I
no.
just want to listen to something and get on, then that violates the law.
Yeah, it does
Okay.
violate it, yeah. I want to
Got it.
thank all of our participants. Thank you, board members and administration. Have a wonderful night. I hope we rest comfortably.
Thank you, Michelle.
We are adjourned.